missed that one.
Good evening, everyone. Let the record indicate it is 5:01 p.m. and the Warwick City Council Finance Committee is called to order. First item on the agenda is acceptance of the minutes of the previous meeting. There are none. PCR 17519, first item, 2020-184, workstations, laptops, tablets, printers, etc. Found on page, hold on. Found on page 1. Thank you, Councilman. It's nice to have somebody have your back. Thank you, that's good. Also, before we even get started, let the record also indicate that Council Liaison has run the numbers for us, and there is adequate monies in the accounts that are being requested. Go ahead.
Phil Carlucci, MIS Director. This is a request under City Ordinance 612 to increase existing bid 2020-184 by $57,000 for workstation, laptops, tablets, printers, and computer peripherals. This would bring the total bid to $132,000. This amount has been budgeted within the police department's budget to replace PCs that they have in use that are 5+ years old, some of them going 7 and 8 years old. There's a bit of a catch-up here trying to get these things replaced. When I talked to the colonel and the major, we decided it would probably make more sense to just increase the existing bid we have, the amount on the existing bid we have, to use the same methodology, but these expenses will come out of the budget code 3231, and they will dictate it, but we will leverage what we're buying for the rest of the city to get the best price we can, so we buy quantities. As an example, if we were to get 20 PCs to deploy for the city and we needed 20 for the police department, we would put the order in for 40 to try to get a quantity discount and then have the vendor release them to us, whatever we could set up 10 at a time for a week or whatever we could possibly deploy. But we think we're going to get the best price for the city, and that's the reason we're doing it in this way.
Thank you, Phil. And I would like to point out that actually I see several of these computers in here that are 9 years old. Who put together this list that's in our binder of all these dinosaur printers, computers?
We put it together. We actually have software that does an inventory that goes out and sees what's running on PCs, how old they are. That's the piece we're incorporating for the help desk.
Yeah, a really good job. I'll tell you, it was very helpful to me in analyzing and making a decision on this, particularly where, we have the whole history right here. We don't have to guess and, how old is this and how old is that. I don't have any questions. Any questions from members of the committee? Any questions from members of the council? Any questions from members of the public? Hearing none, and need a motion.
Move for favorable action. Seconded.
We have a motion. We have a second. All in favor? Aye. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. Item 2020-189, food products, found on page 18.
Good evening.
Good evening.
Meg Underwood from the Director of Senior Services. This is the food products bid for the Pilgrim Senior Center. These are the products that are used in the coffee shop. And unfortunately, there was only one bidder, Gordon Food Services, who has been our vendor all but one 6-month period in the last 10 years that I have been in this role. The prices were comparable to what we had in the last 6-month period, and so I am recommending the bid go to Gordon Food Services.
Any questions from members of the committee? I just need some clarification. It says I was able to, this is on your position paper, it says I was able to speak with the representative for Thompson's Food, the current vendor, and the owner of Thurston's Food. Both Thompson and Thurston stated that the amount of the products ordered by the Pilgrim Senior Center did not make it worthwhile for their companies. I did not hear back from the remaining 3 vendors. So that's a total of 5 vendors. I'm not quite sure where you say up at the top you have contacted
I
all of
believe there were
the
6 vendors overall, and one of them is no longer in this territory,
Okay,
and the rest I have accounted for.
okay. I remember, too, from history that there was a lot of discussion some time ago about water and the cost of water, et cetera. I don't see anything on here about water. Are we buying our own water now?
No,
or-
the water is on there. I think it's
It is?
the first or second item, Councilman?
It's where, please?
It's either the first or second item on the list.
Oh, yes, it is. Okay, water. There you go. Okay.
Okay.
And this is going to take care of you for,
6 months.
6
This would
months.
be from January 1, 2020 to June 30.
I'm pretty confident of, the reason why you just go out for a 6-month bid, but for the benefit of some folks who are not, could you just put that on a record while
Sure.
you look for 6 months?
Food prices are a lot more fluid, a lot more changeable than other sort of hard products. And so as a courtesy both to the vendors and to make sure that we're getting the best prices, we do a 6-month rather than an annual bid.
Okay. Any questions from members of the committee? Any questions from members of the council? Any questions from members of the public? Hearing none, I need a motion.
Move for favorable action. Seconded.
We have a motion for favorable. We have a second. All in favor? Aye. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. Item 2020-190, radar calibrations and repairs, found on page 23. Major?
Lori Michaelides on behalf of the Police Department. In October, the city went out to bid for calibration and repair of the Police Department's radar units. One vendor bid, and we are therefore recommending that the bid be awarded to TDME Calibration Labs. The agency's speed enforcement program requires radar equipment that is properly functioning. The WPD currently uses handheld, vehicle-mounted, and message board radar units along with handheld laser devices to enforce both traffic laws and local ordinances. On an annual basis, these units must be inspected, calibrated, and serviced as needed to ensure that any violations issued are court defensible and, more importantly, fair to the motoring public, that they're working correctly and accurately. If approved, the funding for the service contract not to exceed $5,000 would come from Budget Code 30-227.
Thank you, Major. Any questions from members of the committee? Any questions from members of the council? Any questions from members of the public? Hearing none, I need a motion.
Move for favorable action. Seconded.
We have a motion for favorable. We have a second. All in favor? Aye. Thank you, Major.
Thank you.
Item 2020-196, pipe fittings and valves, found on page 26.
Good evening.
Good evening, Dan.
The Water Department received 8 bids for pipe fittings and valves, and we're recommending the bid be split between 7 companies based on a review and submission of the lowest responsible prices. As you can see in the second page of my memo, that we didn't necessarily recommend the lowest bidder price-wise because they did not meet the spec, Warwick Windwater, for a number of items, namely because they did not include flanges, bolts, and gaskets, which may not sound that much, but it's that's part of the bid spec, and they did not, and we verified that, in fact, that is not part of their actual kit, for lack of a better term, that they're submitting. So we recommended the second lowest responsible bidder. And if you look at the bids for those items, they're all comparable, which shows you that the others understood what they had to submit for pricing. So.
Okay.
And these items will be ordered on an as-needed basis. I know there's dozens of items on here, but they may not necessarily even be ordered from year to year.
All
And I
right,
believe
Dan, these are all net prices?
correct.
Okay. So in looking through this, there's a whole lot of stuff here, a whole lot of vendors.
Yep.
You know our position with that. With this Jack Farrelly,
Yes.
this is me personally, I can support awarding that one item
Yeah.
to him because there's a pretty significant difference, and it's that one item. Tri-sales, I'm not going to be able to support tri-sales because most of the stuff they didn't bid on, what they did bid on, there's lower bidders elsewhere. I don't see the need. Windwater, you've already explained it, so I don't see a need for them. Ferguson has pretty much a no bid on most all of the items. Some of the stuff they bid, Core and Maine and Hoadley, Prescott, they're all very, very close proximity. So in the interest of giving you some backup opportunities if you need something, my question to you is, can you live with Prescott, Hoadley, and Corman?
Yes.
In Maine?
Yes.
Okay, we're going to need, I believe we need a PCR on this. PCR 17619, we're going to have an abstention. So we can, well, let me go around first. Any questions? Any questions from members of the committee? Councilman McAllister.
Excuse me.
Thank you. Director, can you just walk me through the Windwater Works, their bid again? The Windwater Works, you said that they didn't follow the RFP.
Oh, yeah, there's a number of items, like I mentioned in my memo, that they did not adhere to the bid spec. And as part of these, and a lot of these are kits and valve kits, hydrant kits, et cetera, that they're supposed to include flanges, bolts, gaskets, et cetera, et cetera. What they've been doing, and I found out from some old orders a long time ago before they were on a bid, when we used to order them as not part of the bid, that they weren't including that with it. So when we started to compare apples to apples and look at it, and basically they were called on it. That's the reason overall. That's why I'm recommending the second lowest responsible bid. And if you look at all the other bids for those items for the companies, they're all within proximity, for lack of a better term, with each other. So you know they bid on this.
Thank you.
Thank you, Chairman. Any questions from members of the council? Any questions from members of the public? Hearing none, I will ask for a motion to amend and award the bid to E.J. Prescott, John Hoadley, and Corin, Maine. Matter of fact, that's a motion. I need a second.
Second.
We have a motion, we have a second. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Thank you. Thank you, Director.
Thank you.
I'm sorry. Yes, thank you. So that was PCR, I'm sorry, what was the next one? 17619. Yeah, okay, so we have a motion as amended on PCR 17619.
I move favorable action as amended.
Seconded.
We have a motion as amended. We have a second. All in favor? Aye. Thank you. Go ahead, Counselor. Let him have the mic. Yes, the amendment was E.J. Prescott, John Hoadley, and Corin, Maine as the three approved vendors. Oh, I'm sorry, you're right. And Jack Farrelly for that one item, which was 16J. Thank you, Counselor. So the amended motion, let's just start over again. The amended motion for PCR 17619 will be to award the bid to E.J. Prescott, John Hoadley, Corin, Maine, and Jack Farley for item 16J only. That's the amendment. I need a motion, I need a second on the amendment.
Second.
We have a second. I need all in favor on the amendment.
Aye.
Aye. I need favorable on as amended.
I move favorable as amended.
Seconded.
Okay, we have a motion, we have a second. All in favor?
Aye.
PCR 17619 passes as amended. 2020-211. Dump trucks, which is found on page 39. Director?
Matthew Solitro, Department of Public Works Director for the City of Warwick. We are seeking to award this bid 2020-211 dump trucks to Rhode Island Trucks Center and the amount of $612,660 for a one-year period. This would encompass 2 fiscal years and would replace the aging fleet of a 2001 Sterling and a 1997 Sterling with upwards of 80 to 90,000 miles on each vehicle. These would be directed towards the water department and come out of their fiscal budget for the 2 years. Initially, it would come out of lease purchase, but be budgeted in their departments. Those two vehicles are currently frontline vehicles for the water department. They would be transferred over to the highway division, and we would put them to good use. You'll see different options on the bid package. An all-season dump body is, for those of us that don't know what it is, the dump body tilts on the inside and has spinners in the front. So that would be something that could be utilized in the winter, basically providing traction to the rear tires, going up hills in any hilly area. And then the conventional dump body is pretty much what you see around town. That would be an in-body sander utilized in the winter. Also, these trucks come with plows. They're Viking Clives plows, which we have parts for in stock, and that's what we're recommending for Rhode Island Truck Center.
Matt, did you say we had a picture of the truck?
Yeah, I believe in your packet.
No.
No?
No. Do you have a picture with you?
I do.
I have all the specs, et cetera, et cetera. Matt, this says, on this brochure here, it says available in stainless steel. Are we looking at stainless steel or? No. The cost would be prohibitive with that, right?
So I believe that the question was, it does come in stainless steel, but this would be a grade 8 steel thickness for that. But one of the reasons we're going with Rhode Island is they're going to provide us with an all aluminum cab in the Freightliner option, which nobody else could.
Matt, repeat that, please.
So the reason we're going with Rhode Island as opposed to someone else is they're going to provide us with an all aluminum cab for the cab and chassis. So that should be around for a long time and won't rot out. So if you look at the model number, it's a 108 SD. Okay, so Donovan was going to provide us with the same cab, but they were more money. That's why we decided to go with Rhode Island Truck Center under the Clives Corporation.
So Matt, as a point of clarification on the numbers, taking into consideration that Rhode Island Truck Center is going to provide an all-aluminum cab and chassis,
Correct.
just read us the prices on these other vehicles.
All right, so Donovan Equipment came in at $153,624. Rhode Island, what's that? Rhode Island came in, Coastal came in at $154,640, but it's not the aluminum as requested inside the bid specifications. Same with the International, Coastal is the same thing. And then Tri-State came in with the requested cab, but was more money. That's why we went with Rhode Island Truck.
Okay, and on the Ballard Mac and the Freightliner, what's that?
All right. Ballard Mac was 161,902, and again, all steel construction on the cab. Freightliner was the same, but had it was the 108 SD that we were requesting for the cab and chassis. Yet they were more money than Rhode Island.
So what are the two trucks that you're looking for this fiscal year?
This fiscal year, we'd like to have the option to purchase an all-season body, which would be the in-body sander with the spinners that you see in front of you, and a conventional body, with the option for the next fiscal year to repeat the same pairing. This just holds the price point for currently the way it is now, and affords us the opportunity, if we get the blessing from the mayor's office in finance, to actually purchase those to see that we have enough. So it would be the spending authority for the 600,000. Not saying that we're going to have the money to do it, but
So what you're looking for is a spending authority of up to 612,000, whatever that number was.
Yes.
Which will encompass 2 years.
correct.
Roughly 307,000 this year, which you're going to purchase 2 of these all-season dump bodies,
One all-season dump and one conventional.
1 of each.
Yep.
Okay.
Yeah, and then the pairing would be the same for the next fiscal year,
Assuming
we have
money's
the
available
revenue to do
for
it.
these
Yes,
purchases in this 2021 fiscal year.
correct.
So it is possible that maybe some other departments could come up with some other items that are necessary and could kind of absorb that monies you're looking for.
You're
If
right.
it's not
Correct.
there, you're not getting it.
Correct, correct. The award of this doesn't mean that I have to buy 4 of them. I can buy one individually, or I can buy 2 or 3, up to 4 vehicles purchased.
But you're only buying 2 this year,
Correct.
and then it's a question of whether or not there's going to be monies available to purchase 2 more in 2021 fiscal year.
Correct.
And the reason for looking for us to approve up to is because of what? Why not wait till next year to, and I know we had this conversation,
Right.
but you need to explain this to
So
everybody.
the reason we'd like to award now up to the $612,000 is because it's a 200-day procurement. So once I get into July of next year, put 200 days out from that, provided that we have the monies to do this, I'm still going to miss a season. So what I'd like to do now is figure out what we have, hold today's pricing. We know everything's going to go up. Nothing's going to go down in the year 2021. So I'm locked into the pricing, but I'm not locked into purchasing another 2 additional vehicles if we don't have the money. So from a business perspective, I thought that would be the best way to go for the city.
That was the key, that I wanted to make sure everyone understood. So he's locked in those numbers for 2 years, essentially. We're approving 2 vehicles now, but what we got is a hold on 2 more at today's prices. What? Brian, to the mic.
Okay.
Brian? I know mine's on. Brian, do you want to say something?
Yes, I do. Actually, really referring to Pat. Typically on lease purchase items, we have verbiage where we can reimburse ourselves. That's not there. It's on the bottom of the actual, where you have like the footnotes. Usually we'd have, anytime there's a lease purchase, we'd have verbiage that we're reimbursing ourselves via lease, and that is not here at this time. I can get the language and,
We can
but,
just make an amendment to add that to the resolution.
Right now.
If you could amend it now.
Let's do it.
yeah, okay.
Read it into the record. What's
Okay.
the language you
I gotta
want?
go down and get it. I just noticed I wasn't there.
Okay? Yep. Okay, so this would be PCR 177, 19. We're going to hold this aside for right now until Brian gets back. And let's go on to 2020-220 natural gas contract found on page 55. That's Brian.
Is that Brian?
All righty. Let's go to 220 2020, 226. It's a lot of twos here today. Service investigations. Found on page 59. Major?
Thank you. The police department is seeking an exception to bid and authorization to purchase a one-year contract for an online investigative program from TransUnion Risk and Alternative, known as TLO's service software. The exception is requested in order to allow our agency to use the program for investigations, background checks for new recruits, and sexual offender registration compliance verifications. This service has been in use by the department since 2013 and previously involved a cost per search fee. Based on our increased usage of the software, we negotiated with TransUnion to come up with an annual contract to meet the current and future needs of the agency. For a fee of $280 a month, we have use of all the options of the software that we utilize, additional vehicle-related info, and up to 1,000 searches per month included. The department is requesting spending authority not to exceed the amount of $4,000 for the one-year contract.
Any questions from members of the committee? Any questions from members of the council? Any questions from members of the public? Hearing none, I need a motion.
Move for favorable action. Seconded.
We have a motion for favorable. We have a second. All in favor? Aye.
Thank you.
Thank you, Major. Okay, we'll move on while we're waiting for Brian. No issues with that, right? Okay. So, say what? Yeah. Just move on. Acceptance of the minutes, there are none. PCR 17519, resolution relative to the bids. First item, PCO 719, pension board. We're going to hold that. And I'm going to ask at least everyone that's here to just try to avoid filling up the December 16th calendar on anything you got to hold. So PCO 719, I'm going to make a motion to hold until December 2nd.
I'll second that motion.
We have a motion to hold. We have a second. All in favor? Aye. Aye. PCR 9417, 2017-147, State of Rhode Island Telecommunications, hold till December 2nd.
Motion to hold to December 2nd. Seconded.
PCR 14817, 2018-143, installation of sprinklers, hold till December 2nd. Say what? On PCR 9417, all in favor? Aye. Aye. PCR 14817, hold till December 2nd.
Second that motion.
We have a motion, we have a second, all in favor? Aye. Hopefully we'll be able to review the information that we need, and maybe we can get these off the calendar one of these days. When I get the information. PCR 15119, formerly 2020-123, electrical maintenance and repairs. That was held from the last meeting, and we were supposed to get together and have a meeting and talk about this, and that didn't happen.
Correct.
So, as far as I'm concerned, nothing's changed.
We would like to withdraw this.
Withdraw? Okay, we have a motion, we have a request to withdraw at the request of the sponsor. Any?
I'll make a motion to withdraw. Seconded.
We have a motion to withdraw at the request of the sponsor. We have a second. All in favor? Aye. Thank you, Director. PCR 16519, formerly 2020-170, Scott Air Pack Pro Self-Contained Breathing. Chief, I'll save us a little bit of time on this. I had asked at the last meeting if this could be held. You and I and the chief were going to get together and discuss this monopoly that's been going on with the vendor here in the state. Through no fault of either of yours, strictly my schedule, that meeting was not able to take place, and I am not looking to hold this any further. What I've asked of you is if you could work with a 6-month extension on this item as well as PCR 16619, be able to allow you folks, your department, to continue doing business, allow us time to do the work that we need to do to look for a more competitive process on this. And the department's good with that, correct?
Yeah, the fire department does agree.
Any questions from members of the committee? Any questions from members of the council? Any questions from members of the public? Sir. Just identify yourself for the record, please.
Rob Cody, Ward 7. I have a couple questions pertaining to the Scott Air Pack bid. I guess questions for the chief, technical questions. These Scott Air Packs, I mean, every year we have a pretty substantial allocation for Scott Air Packs. Are they aluminum Scott Air Packs, steel, or are they composite?
They're carbon wrapped bottles.
Okay. How many do we have presently?
Don't have that information with me right now.
Okay, we should have that information. And the reason I ask is, Councilman Lattisaw, since 2013, we've allocated $655,000 for Scott Air Packs. Do you know what the life expectancy of those are? Yeah.
So according to the NFPA standard, they can last through 3 NFPA standard revision processes. So we're estimating that we've been through 2 already, revisions of the NFPA standard. The third one we expect to happen around 2022, 2023.
Okay, that really doesn't answer my question, but the actual life expectancy in accordance with NFPA, which I have right now on my phone, is 15 years. These packs last 15 years, right? The old packs would last until they fail hydro, but the carbon-wrapped composite packs last for 15 years. So what I'd like to know is, with the $655,000 that we've allocated since 2013, how many Scott Air Packs have we purchased? How many have we retired? And so we're less than 15 years, right? Are you buying just the pack itself, or are you buying all the masks and the harnesses? What is it that you're buying? Because I don't think the council actually understands what you're purchasing.
So the intent of this bid includes everything, including the air packs, includes the SCBA bottles, includes all the accessories, masks, and all the fittings that we need in order to run them. The intent this year is to continue our replacement of the carbon wrap bottles as their life expectancy hits. So we have a replacement program that we do every year. We continue to replace those bottles. The rest of the money is allocated for replacement of masks and air packs that get damaged beyond repair.
Okay, so Mr. Chairman, I think it would be wise for the committee to know how many we have in stock presently, how many we've purchased since 2013, how many have been retired since 2013, and how many we actually need. Because when you do some simple math on the vendor's site, for $655,000, we should have lots and lots of this equipment. So I would just respectfully request that somebody take a look at that and get that information. And I would also request that you actually have an itemized list of what they're purchasing. So when they come and they say, hey, we're buying Scott Air Packs, does every member on the Finance Committee understand exactly what they're purchasing?
So, Chief, can you just review the purpose of this bid that you have out here right now?
Okay, so the bid that we have in front of you is itemized of all the current NFPA standard air packs that we are permitted to buy. This pack that you see in front of you, the X3 Pro, is a 2018 model, which was released recently. We can't buy an old non-compliant NFPA air pack, so that would be the most recent pack. All of the other items you see in your pricing list are all of the regulators, the face masks, all the accessories for the face masks, all the air bottles we use, the packs we use for our rapid intervention teams, and then a lot of the other accessories that go with the air packs. The idea of this bid is that we have a spending authority in place to continue our bottle replacement cycle that we currently have in the fire department started well before me. We continue them so that we don't have to buy a whole ton of bottles. We have about 144 packs out there right now, approximately. How many bottles is that? Is usually 3 to a pack. I'm just estimating. I don't have that exact number in front of me. So it's a lot of bottles. We don't want to have to come to you at $1,000 a bottle and try to buy them all at one time, so we replace them on a normal cycle so that they're kind of spread out throughout the 15 years of our life cycle. So we want to spend an authority to replace those bottles. We have a specific budget for that in the city budget. And then the other part of that would be any of the masks, accessories, regulators, or catastrophic failure of a pack that's beyond the repair capabilities. We need to actually replace the physical pack. We need that to spend an authority out there. They're about over $6,000 a pack, so it does take quite a bit of spending authority.
All right, thank you. And the last comment I would have is, in 2013, we allocated $447,000 for Scott Air Pack, so I'm assuming then that was a major purchase to upgrade everything, right? So with a life expectancy of 15 years, we're still doing upgrades, and we had that major upgrade of almost $500,000. So I think it's really important that the council has an exact inventory on the equipment that we have. Thank you.
Thank you. Chief, back to the mic. So what did you have for life expectancy?
So an NFPA standard basically gives you 2 revisions. So every couple of years, NFPA revises its standard on self-contained breathing apparatus. What they say is you cannot have a pack that exceeds 3 revision cycles. So once they revise that NFPA standard 3 times, your pack then is due to be replaced. We've been through 2 revisions since we bought our original air packs. They were all purchased off a federal grant, the entire fleet of air packs that we have right now on our first line apparatus. We've been through 2 revision cycles. The current one was 18. That was our second revision. We expect the next one around 2022-ish, 2023, NFPA is saying, for the last one. Once that cycle hits, then our packs need to be replaced.
And so not only are we going to have to amend the term on this, we're going to have to amend the monies as well. So how many packs do you absolutely need to buy in the next 6 months?
0.
0.
We have, the packs that we have are sufficient to get us through 2022 or 2023. Barring that we don't have a catastrophic failure, an accident of some type that destroys the pack and they can't repair it, then we need to go out and purchase one. We can't use an old outdated one.
All right, so you have
That's
to
what the
have
bid is for.
some monies in there for some emergency type of issue that you have to replace a pack.
Correct.
Okay, so here's my thoughts. My thought is we amend this for a 6-month extension. It would give us time to work through trying to attract more competitive or additional bidders, let's say. And because you don't have a necessity right now, you don't have to go out and buy any of these new packs. You say they're about $1,000 a piece, all
Over 6,000 apiece.
over 6,000
The pack
a piece.
itself, yes.
All set. Okay.
It's item number 1 on your pricing sheet, is the actual pack itself. It's $62.90.
And if you had a catastrophic failure, that means you would have to replace that pack, right?
That's correct.
And that's the 62?
$62.90, yep.
Okay.
$6,290 to replace a pack. Again, the intent in this fiscal year and through this cycle for the bid is hopefully not to have to replace any of them. We do take pretty good care of them. We haven't had any failures since we bought the last revision of them, any catastrophic that we couldn't repair. Most of this money is allocated towards cylinder replacement, and that's the more expensive part. The cylinders are about $1,000 a piece, and like I said, we've got several hundred of them out there. So those do have a 15-year life cycle on them. So we have to replace them in smaller pieces.
All right, so you were looking for 50 over 12. If we amend this to 25 over 6, that'll cover you for any emergency type things. And that's a
Absolutely.
spending authority up to for emergency replacements. Not for inventory, not for, just purchasing something because we want to have it on the shelf.
The 25,000 would allow me to continue the cylinder replacement that we're doing right now in our current budget.
On an emergency basis, on an emergency replacement basis.
Correct.
Okay. Any questions, any other questions from members of the committee? Okay, any other questions from members of the public? Hearing none, I need a motion for a 6-month extension to the original contract in the amount of $25,000.
I'll make a motion to extend the original contract by 6 months for $25,000.
We have a motion, we have a second. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Thank you.
I do have a question.
PCR 166-19, sorry?
I move favorable as amended.
Yeah, as amended, right, that's what I said.
Mr. Chairman, can I ask a question?
Sir,
I haven't spoken with the vendor himself about actually getting authorization that they will be okay with extending that out 6 months at the current pricing.
you want to hold it
Are
till next
we-
meeting?
Well, can we just award this current bid, the newer bid, for 6 months? Would that be a better way to do it? Because I didn't ask them if they were willing to go 6 months more with their current pricing.
Any problem?
It wouldn't be fair to the vendor, I don't think, to force them into that.
All right, so you want to just award the new bid for 6 months?
Yeah, that was the understanding I thought
Okay.
we had agreed to.
Yeah, fine, I misunderstood. You guys all right with that? Anybody else have a question on that? Okay. Okay, so we're going to award this bid for 6 months. And the amount is $25,000. So I need a motion as amended.
Make a motion as amended.
Second?
Second.
All in favor? Aye. Thank you. The next item, 16619, that essentially is the same thing. Just let me get that out. Any questions from members of the committee while I'm looking for that bid? Chief, make it easy for me. What was the amount on that?
So this bid is for the repair and testing of the air packs, not replacement. This is our required testing by NFPA and any repairs to keep these from having to be replaced. We were originally looking for, this bid would be effective date of December 16th of 2019 through December 15th of 2021. So this was as recommended, a 2-year period of performance for a total of $30,000. If we cut this back to a 6-month, so with the expiration date ending 6/16 of 19, the department would be okay with $7,500, which is a quarter of that. That would get us through the repairs for the next 6 months.
Okay, so it's going to be award this contract for 6 months, and the amount will be for $7,500. Any questions from members of the committee? Any questions from members of the council? Any questions from members of the public? Hearing none, I need a motion to amend.
I make a motion to amend. Seconded.
Amend for, this contract will be amended for 6 months in the amount of $7,500.
Yes. Favorable action on that motion. Seconded.
Okay, all in favor on the motion? I'm sorry, on the amendment?
Aye. I move
All
favorable
in favor?
as
Aye, as amended?
as amended.
Seconded.
We have a motion as amended. We have a second. All in favor? Aye. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, Chief. Thanks for working with us on that. And Chief, just reach out to me if you could in the next day or two, and we'll put together, a time and a day so we can get together and at least start working on getting to the next step with this, okay?
Will do.
Thank you. Okay, back to 2020-211. Brian. Go ahead, Brian.
Yes, Mr. Chairman. I had the PCR numbers from some of the leases we've done in the past. I didn't have the actual language myself. I just gave it to Pat and asked if she could get it. I don't know if you wanted to go on to the next item while she gets that language.
Next item is you, too.
Yes.
2020-220, natural gas, and that is on page 55.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman, members of the committee. Brian Sylvia, Finance Director, presenting for the administration. The city is looking to piggyback a bid off of the Rhode Island Association of School Committees for its natural gas provider contract. The recommendation is a 3-year contract. The rate at the time of when this was written, November 11th, the rate at the time for a 3-year was $4.64 decatherm. At this time, I should note, as of today's date, the rate has changed, and it would actually be $4.59 for the 3-year contract.
Which one, Brian?
The 3-year, $4.59.
From 219 to 222?
Yes.
It would be how much?
$4.59 a decatherm.
So instead of 464, it would be 459.
That is correct.
Okay.
The city has followed the Rhode Island Association of School Committees on this bid in the past, as most communities do, and has had very favorable relationship with this via this contract, and is looking to continue it. I should mention, the recommendation of the administration was to do a 3-year contract. I do have the other rates. They were adjusted rates for 1- and 2-year contracts as well.
Tell me what they are.
Sure. So from December 19 through December 20, the adjusted rate is, or today, the rate as of today is $4.79. And December 19 through December 21 is $4.65.
And the rate that we're currently locked in is $4.22.8, right?
That is correct.
$4.22.
Yes. I should mention, too, Eric Everton from Direct Energy is here if you have any questions.
Say that again?
Eric Everton from Direct Energy is here if you have any questions.
Okay. So if we approve this, we're going to be locked in from December 2, 2019 through December 2022.
That is correct.
Okay. Any questions from members of the committee? Any questions from members of the council? Any questions from members of the public? Hearing none, I need a motion. Oh, yes, okay. PCR 17819. And we're going to have an amendment. Councilman McAllister?
I make amendment to show today's number for the 3-year term would be $4.59.
Seconded.
We have a motion to amend the rate for effective period of December 2019 through December 2022 from $4.64 to a reduction of $4.59 per DT. Any other questions? Hearing none, I need a motion on the amendment.
Move favorable as amended. Seconded.
We have a motion, we have a second on the amendment. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Need a motion as amended.
Move favorable as amended.
Seconded.
We have a motion favorable. We have a second as amended. All in favor?
Aye.
Thank you. Thank you, Brian. That's a yes. That's right. That's right. That's right. No, no worries, Brian. I'm not getting blamed for this delay. Take all the time you want. I'm here till midnight.
We had to make sure we got to be able to reimburse ourselves. So the language that is required as part of a master lease is, and we have copies, but be it further resolved that this resolution is affirmative action of the City Council of the city toward the execution and delivery of lease purchase financing documents with respect to bid, I don't have the actual bid number,
2020-211.
2020-211, in accordance with purposes of the laws of the state. This resolution constitutes the city's declaration of official intent pursuant to Treasury Regulation 1.150 to reimburse the city for certain expenditures paid on or after the date of which the 60 days prior to the date of this resolution, but prior to the execution and delivery of the lease purchasing financing documents. Such amounts to be reimbursed shall not exceed $612,660 and shall be reimbursed not later than 18 months after the date by which this expenditure is paid or the date the property is placed in service or abandoned, but in no event later than 3 years after the date of the expenditure is paid.
All right, thank you, Brian. Let me repeat that for you. Hold on a minute, please. Are you for real? All right, well, it's a good thing, the counselor here has that all written down. I might be pretty good with numbers, but words, not so good. Counselor, you have all that? You're going to read it all into the record, and you'll read it into the record after when we go over the amendment?
I have a copy of the text as just read into the record, so you can move it as stated, and we have it, and we'll move it official again at the full council level.
All right, so we'll be moving PCR 177-19 as amended, including the additional novel that was just read into the record.
I move
First
favorable
on the
on the
amendment.
amended as stated.
Okay, we have a motion. We have a second as amended. All in favor? Aye. For the amendment. Now we need a motion as amended.
I move favorable as amended.
We have a motion as amended. We have a second. All in favor? Aye. Thank you. And it is 5:55, and the Finance Committee is adjourned. Don't get used to it.
try starting something else. It's right. It's too early. That's why I wanted to see if you were paying attention. You can't start early. Why is there a crowd gathering downstairs? Huh?
You do. I call the ordinance committee at 6:01. First up is the acceptance of the minutes. There are none. Number one is PCO 18-15, an ordinance regarding the trash collection of large items and heavy pickups. This is Councilman Lattiser and Councilwoman Travis. Councilman Lattiser.
So the reason that we've brought this forward is because of repeated offenders and abuse of the heavy trash pickup. And I know that this has been going on for several years now, and in some instances, at least in my ward, back quite a ways, I had asked DPW for some input and statistics on some of these heavy pickups. And we're not talking about homeowners here or single-family homes, so I just want to make that clear. This has nothing to do with single-family home pickups. This is for essentially the multifamily rental units, particularly non-owner occupied as well as owner occupied. And what's happening is oftentimes the tenants are either they leave the premises or they're evicted from the premises, and when they do, they deposit all their belongings that they don't want on the street or on the sidewalk or on the front lawn. I've had instances in my ward where DPW's had to send 30-yard dumpsters to the particular property to get this all picked up, including a payloader or a backhoe type of piece of equipment. And it's all on the taxpayer dollars. That is not fair. That is totally unacceptable. And we need to get some control on that. And these constant offenders of this service that the city provides needs to be held responsible. This ordinance is addressing that issue. I know in one particular location in 1 year, I believe it was somewhere in the vicinity of 100 pickups in 1 year. I mean, that's pretty ridiculous, and it's even more ridiculous that all the taxpayers should be footing the bill. I have been a property owner over the years, and we collect rents. It's a business. We run a business. And part of the cost of running that business is dealing with the tenants when they vacate and they leave all their stuff in that apartment. We have to pay the cost to remove it. And it's rightfully so. And the taxpayers shouldn't have to bear that burden. I know Councilwoman Travis, who is a co-sponsor on this with me, she has had the same issues in her ward and the same abuses taking place. So I'll read into the record the proposed changes, and then I will turn it over to Councilwoman Travis so she can speak to the issues that she's experienced. And I feel quite comfortable in assuming that pretty much everyone on the city council has had their share of this type of problems occurring in your ward, where you're constantly getting all this trash and debris and junk thrown on the front walks, and the taxpayers in your ward have to foot the bill for something they shouldn't. So, in section 22-79 starts out at line 38B. The following limitations and regulations shall apply to special heavy trash collections at all residential dwellings in the city except those dwellings that are owner-occupied, single-family homes for which no limitations on heavy trash pickups are imposed. I'll repeat it. Except those dwellings that are owner-occupied, single-family homes for which no limitations on heavy trash pickups are imposed. Heavy trash collections are limited to 2 within any 12-month period per address location, with the start of said 12-month period commencing on the date of the first heavy trash collection. The material that may be picked up is limited in size to that which fits in a 1-ton lift-gate, approximately 240 cubic foot vehicle. The property owner shall be responsible to pay all costs, including labor, material, equipment, and disposal fees for heavy trash material collected by the city that is in excess of the number of collections and/or in excess of the size limitations set forth in I and II above. Failure to comply with the limitations and regulations set forth shall be a violation by the owner of the premises, for which the owner of the premises shall be cited. The owner of the premises shall be liable for the penalties and lien provisions set forth. There is one other change. It's a housekeeping issue, and on the second page, line 19, you'll see the strikeout of minimum housing and replace with the underlying property maintenance. And those are the changes. Are there any comments?
Thank you, Councilman. And also on line 31, same house maintenance, we're eliminating minimum housing and adding property maintenance. And on the line 27, same thing, minimum housing is striked out and it's now property maintenance.
Where is that?
On the first page, section 2881.
Oh, I'm sorry, yes, okay, yes, sorry. I didn't highlight that. Thank you, thank you.
So those are 3 changes there. Same thing. And again, thank you, Councilman, for pointing out. I know that was my first question that I asked you, and you it directly says that this does not affect single-family homes. If there is no limitations on the heavy trash pickup, this does not change that. Does not address that. Councilwoman Travis?
Yes, I'd like to echo Councilman Lattisaw. So too many times I have seen in my ward where the tenants would leave in the middle of the night, leave the debris all over. I had one house that was on the corner, and I mean the whole entire corner was covered. And then it rained or something, and all that garbage and all that trash, they weren't even in barrels or bags, they just sat there. So the cost of the taxpayer was unbelievable. We had to get the Public Works to go out there with a dumpster, have them take the, a bulldozer or something to pick it up, have a couple of guys there. So we had to pay, have to pay that cost. And it's just repeat and repeat and repeat. Especially if you have somebody who would, like, say, a landlord who's renting the property, and you had a turnover of people coming and going. And you've seen that so many times. So we definitely needed this legislation so we can tighten up the belt. So I appreciate favorable action.
Thank you. Councilman Corley.
I have a question concerning the penalty on line 16 and 2282. It says that I can understand the fine of not exceeding $600 for each offense. However, I think there is some problem with the imprisonment of not exceeding 6 months and subject to the terms of 2283 below. 2283 does not mention anything concerning imprisonment, and in prison, I think sending someone to jail, or at least having the possibility that there could be a jail sentence, implicates several problems, one being that they would be entitled to have a lawyer appointed for them if they couldn't afford one, and I don't know where these issues would be resolved. I just don't know if my personal opinion is that the punishment should be limited to the fines as stated, and that the language that is on line 15, there should be a period after $600 for each offense, period. Then I would suggest striking the imprisonment not exceeding 6 months. The subject to the terms of 2283 below is fine, but that is my suggestion.
Councilman Lattiser.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. So, Councilman, I just wanted to point out that that language that's there now, that is not my language. It is not our language. This is language that has been there for, I have no clue how many years. It certainly was language that was put in by the previous administration or administrations. I did not add it, nor did I take any steps to delete it. But it has been there for a good number of years. And John Harrington could probably comment to that. Maybe. Here he is. So just wanted, for the record, that's not Councilwoman Travis's or mine or anyone else that's on to this. It is strictly language that was there.
The Councilman Lattiser is correct in that that language was existing, and it's been there for a very long time. I used that section to insert the provisions that he wanted to put in, because one of the things that was trying to be captured here was the lien provisions. That if somebody does this, further on down in those sections, and one of the reasons I included them all in the ordinance is that a violation under this ordinance allows the city to impose a lien against the property owner for the cost of removing the material. So that was why I selected where to insert the new provisions. I mean, to the extent you have a concern about the existing language, then I suppose you can propose an amendment, but I didn't make any drafting changes to what's been there for a very long time, to my knowledge.
No, I understand, and both of you, what you're saying is correct. It just strikes me that that should be an amendment, and perhaps when you're citing the sections of the penalties, it cites 2283, but it does not also cite 2284, which does allow for the liens to be placed on it, and perhaps that should be added as well to the section B of 2282, that it should say that 2283 is also something that can be used to put or 2284 is something that can be used to put a lien on the property?
Well, 2284 is in that particular article and is available to the city to utilize. I mean, if you wanted to add a reference, I guess you could, but I don't think adding the reference is necessary because the section states that it can be used to impose a lien.
I have no problem with that. I think that having that ability is something that would be that would catch the attention of the people that are violating if there were to be a lien placed on their property. At the appropriate time, I'm just going to suggest that the phrase concerning the punishment on line 15 that says, or by imprisonment not exceeding 6 months be stricken, but it does not in any way go to try to lessening the intent of the change in the ordinance, which I am in favor of.
Councilman Lattiser.
Thank you, Chairman. Through the chair to Councilwoman Travis. Councilwoman Travis, I don't have a problem with redacting or removing that particular language. Do you? Okay. So if we take it, if we may, Chairman, so the recommendation is to delete "or by imprisonment not exceeding 6 months, subject to the terms of Section 22-83.
Well, you could leave the, I didn't mean to interrupt, but you can simply strike the "or by imprisonment not exceeding 6 months."
Okay.
Because that comma
Right.
works well to direct people to 2283, and it only is
Okay.
pertaining to the $600 fine and other fines and other provisions of 83 and 84 that are available to a judge for enforcement purposes.
Okay, so if we agree to remove "or by imprisonment not exceeding 6 months," you don't have any other changes?
None.
I'm all set with that, Mr. Chair.
Any other questions from members of the council? Any questions from the members of the public on PCO 18-15, an ordinance regarding the trash collection of large items and heavy pickups? If not, I'll entertain a motion.
Mr. Chairman, I'd make a motion for approval with an amendment.
Okay.
The amendment would be on Section 22-82, penalty, suspension of penalty, line 15, to delete, a period after, for each offense, to be a period. It'll say punishable with a fine not exceeding $600 for each offense, period. Delete "or by imprisonment not exceeding 6 months. Subject to the terms of Section 2283 below will remain.
Just for grammatical purposes, if you left the comma after, leave the comma exactly where it is
Okay.
before subject, then you just keep it in one sentence rather than starting a second sentence.
Okay. So after offense will be a comma as opposed to a period?
Correct.
Easy. Okay. I'm much better with numbers than I am with grammar.
I'll second that motion.
Thank you.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Then do we have
I'll
a
move
motion?
favorable as amended.
I'll second that.
It's been moved favorable as amended. It's been seconded. All those in favor?
Aye.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Next up is PCO 10-19, an ordinance in regard to water discharge. This is not drafted. Councilman Lattiser.
Hold till January 6th.
Motion to hold to January 6th.
Second.
It's been moved and second. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Next up is PCO 13-19, an ordinance in regard to no parking here to Chapman's Ave, to 406 Chapman's Ave, to 420 Chapman's Ave. I'm the sponsor of this. I'm going to ask to move this to the pending file.
Make a motion to move to the pending file at the request of the sponsor.
Second.
It's been moved and second. All those in favor?
Aye.
Thank you. And 3 is PCO 15-19, an ordinance regarding health insurance for city employees. This is not drafted. Councilman Lattiser.
Hold till December 2nd.
So motion to hold to December 2nd?
Second.
Yes.
I'll
It's
second.
been seconded. All those in favor?
Aye.
Thank you very much. That closes ordinance at 6:19.
Oh, Jeremy's here? Oh, okay, I see his coat. Yep, exactly. That's. don't have one. Oh, that's right, yeah, because I'm not on this committee. That's mine, you got one. You got a chair.
The time is 6:20 p.m. The City Council Committee on Public Safety now comes to order. As to acceptance of minutes, there are none before us. First item on the agenda is PCR 16-18 tree damage claims. This is the bill of Councilman McAllister. It is not currently drafted. If I could request a date from the sponsor.
Yes, I make a motion to hold to January 22.
Do we have a motion to hold from?
Motion to hold till January 22nd.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Held to January 22nd. Second item, PCR 149-19, resolution to claims. This is Councilman Snappy. Let's see. Yeah, as this, excuse me. Let's see, there is one claim, that of Kristen Miller. Is Kristen Miller present here this evening? Not seeing her present. May I request a motion to hold? Rather, I'm sorry, it appears that this has been held.
We did hold this last meeting for additional information, Mr. Chairman. I realize we received the information. However, I know that Chairman Sinapi usually likes to either have the person here or make that decision. He's the one who made the request. I'm just going to ask that we hold it one more, with your permission.
Second.
All in favor of holding to December 2nd, 2019?
Aye.
Aye.
Aye. This concludes the meeting of the Public Safety Committee. The time is 6:24.
The Intergovernmental Committee meeting will begin at 6:25. There are no minutes. There is one item on the agenda, PCR 135, PCR 134, 18, a resolution to create a charter review committee. It's not drafted. Councilman Lattiser.
Motion to hold till January 6th per request of the sponsor.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
And the Intergovernmental Committee concludes at 6:26.
Be able to keep up.
Good evening, everyone. For the benefit of everyone who has joined us this evening, it's not familiar with the schedule and the calendar. For the next committee meeting, we have to wait until 6:40. That's why we're kind of just looking like we're all standing around talking to ourselves, and sometimes we actually do that. But that's the reason. We just wanted to let you know. So 6:40 will be convening the next committee. Ma'am? If you want to, not for that one, not for the, well, you don't have to sign up to speak to the committee meetings. You can simply go to the podium when the committee meetings come. But if you want to speak during the 15-minute open mic, yes, you would sign up for that. Okay? Any other questions? Okay, good. Thank you. The sign-up sheet is at the podium where, for the public comment, right, correct, is at the podium if anyone would like to sign up.
people then. Yep.
Thank you. Yeah. 2 minutes, yeah. That's all I need. If not, I'll come back next month.
Okay, are we ready?
Ready?
Everyone ready? Okay, let's get this started.
The time is 6:43. We'll commence the City Council Committee on Public Properties, Land Use, and Community Affairs. First, acceptance of minutes from the previous committee meeting. There are no such minutes to accept. We have one item on the agenda. This is for second passage. The item is PCO 16-19, an ordinance amending the zoning of the City of Warwick, 2574 West Shore Road, Carpianato Group, LLC, petitioner. This is for second passage. Councilwoman Travis.
Yes, thank you. We're going to move it favorable action, but before we get into it, do I need a second, right? I'll move it in favorable action on PCO 16-19. But I do want to make a statement that I know the last meeting the people were not here because it wasn't on the agenda. But Councilman Sinapi and I did put a resolution in, and it was passed by the City Council to the state requesting that we get that street light as soon as possible. So we did make a resolution to the state people that we wanted that as soon as possible. That was just like a little extra push to try to get that. So I wanted you to know that we did go that far to do that. That's one thing to help it move it along. But it's second passage, and I'm sure some people are going to still talk about it. I got my book with me, so there you go, Mr. Chairman.
Right, and I know that there was a lot of public comment at the previous meeting. There was a lot of discussion. With that, going first, are there any questions from members of this committee?
No.
Any questions from other members of the City Council? And now this is the opportunity if there are any members from the public who wish to step up to the mic and speak on this. The button at the bottom. Very bottom. Thank you.
Hello. My name is Maureen McNamara. I live at 41 Spring Grove. Can you first explain this process, how this committee works, what you're going to be voting on right now, and what we're going to next, just so that we're all understanding where we are in this process?
Before the committee is PCO 16-19. I believe you were at a previous meeting. It is in the same form that it had been voted upon on the prior meeting. The items changing ordinances require two passages. So before the committee at this time is the second passage of the ordinance. At this time, no motion has been made, but they are offering the public their opportunity to speak. Should the committee take some sort of action, it would then be referred in whatever way action is taken to the full council. But per the rules of the committee and the council, public testimony on all items is taken at this level in the committee at this point in time.
Okay. So if it's okay, I do have something I do want to present to you right now, if I can approach and hand this out to you.
You may approach.
Mr. Chairman, if you could just ask the speakers to speak into the mic and speak louder because we can't hear them. Thank you.
I'll just state, as Councilman Lattiser, the microphone system is not particularly good, so in order to hear if you could please speak directly into the microphone and hold it very close.
Okay, is that better?
Thank you.
All right. First, I want to say, Councilman Corley, thank you for pointing out at the last meeting why ask for the access now. Why not come back and ask for it if you really need it? The fact is, they don't need this access. They want it, and it's ridiculous that we are even discussing this. There are so many other things that we could be spending our time on and energy, but we are here fighting to keep our neighborhood just that, a neighborhood. I want to establish a misconception from the last meeting. Kelly Coates kept saying, I hear my neighbors, no trucks. And no, Kelly did not hear us. We said no traffic. I am going to try to make this as quick as possible. The proposed zone change put in front of you tonight and at the last meeting was generated by one man's want. Let me reiterate that for you. It was a want that was put into a lease agreement, which we have yet to see and has had absolutely no justification. And to our disappointment, we haven't had or heard any council member ask for it. We welcomed Dave's, but they have shown they are not interested in being good neighbors. And personally, I no longer support this project and would call their bluff. If they want to walk away from the project because they can't have access, go ahead. There are plenty of competitors that will jump in their place, and we all know that the current store should be shut down because of all the code violations. From the beginning, the residents of Spring Grove have been at a disadvantage. For one, we are not as financially invested in some of the leadership here in Warwick as Carpianato and Dave's owners are. Second, the planning department from the beginning has been disappointingly biased. Not only have we been given poor, misleading information, there was never any concern or consideration toward the residents and how they were to be affected. Not only was this disturbing, more so is the fact that the director of the planning department is also the mayor's chief of staff. So I have two questions I'd like for you to ponder. One, how much influence does the mayor have over planning? Let's not forget who our big contributors are. Two, how can one person dedicate the amount of time and detail required to do both of these board positions to the level of performance required? Which leads me to the biggest issue in this proposed zone change. Please look at exhibit number 2. This is the City of Warwick Planning Board meeting recommendations from September 11th. In almost every project presented to the planning board that night, the planning department findings cited the City of Warwick's Comprehensive Plan, Chapter 12, protect and support existing residential neighborhoods, which I have highlighted in yellow. All except our project. The planning department labeled it generally consistent and encouraged new business and industries to locate in areas where adequate public facilities already exist. That's highlighted in green. It's not the consistent protect and support existing residential neighborhoods as they should have. Now, if you look at Exhibit 3, City of Warwick Comprehensive Plan 2013 to 2033, Part 6, Chapter 12, Future Land Use, Zoning, and Urban Design. In the second column, highlighted, this is our neighborhood. It distinctly says, limit commercial intrusion in residential areas. I've also included on the following page the goals and policies of that same chapter that reiterate this. So in summary, the proposed zone change does not comply with the comprehensive plan and will create a negative impact for our neighborhood. So a vote no tonight is the only right thing to do. A vote no tonight is protecting our rights.
a job that we voted you all in there to do. Thank you.
Good evening, Michelle Marandola from 95 Spring Grove. I did speak last time they were here. Thank you for listening to all of us. Thank you, Councilwoman Travis, about the stipulation about the light. If that's going to happen, that would be great. One of the things I feel, and I talked about last time, is the matter of exits and exits to that property. If you're looking, I think that the Caponado Corporation and Dave's both are very presumptuous. Dave said, I won't sign a contract unless we can go on to Spring Grove, that people that live there. Now, somebody from Dave's did live on our street, probably about 40 years ago. I've been there for 41 years. They moved in after I did, and they probably haven't been there for between 20 and 30 years. So a lot of things have changed. And you're asking for an access, but you didn't ask any of us if that's something that we want. We live in there. It's going to affect our street. The other thing is for the Caponado to say, okay, I'm going to put that in my lease. You're guaranteeing that you're going to put something that, again, for that corporation, is not consistent with what the majority of the people on Spring Grove want. So why was that being done? You're both, to me, it's both pretty presumptuous that they both did that, thinking that I want something, and the other one saying, yes, you can have it, without asking any of us that live on that street. We talked last time, I talked about exits and entrances. Right now, there will be 3 entrances and exits from that parking area. Why do we need Spring Grove as a 4th? Do you know of any other business in Rhode Island or in Warwick that Dave's exits into a neighborhood? I don't think they do. They did talk about the Dave's in Hoxie Four Corners. That has 3 entrances, that Dave's over there, which is nice. They still have to have a cop over there to stop traffic so you can still leave there, but it doesn't exit out into any of the surrounding neighborhood as an exit street. That's what I was concerned about. The majority of the people on Spring Grove have no issue with Dave's being the store that's going there. That's not really the issue. We feel the issue is you're changing our neighborhood without our control. And what is the benefit of it? That's all I have to say. So please take that into consideration. Thank you all for listening to us. Again, thank you very much. Bye.
If you could please state your name into the microphone. Thank you.
Lisa Messina. I live at 61 Spring Grove, directly next to where the access is supposedly going to go in. Please do not put this access in. This is a genuine safety hazard to life, whether it be that you think my children are being neglectful or not. This could put people in my backyard during weather conditions that are less than ideal. This is not a good idea. This is my neighborhood. This is where I want my kids to grow up and be safe. And right now, that's not something that is going to be a thing. If you guys open up this access for them, they don't need it. This is a neighborhood. We all live quietly in our neighborhood. We need our quiet. As it is, Dave's already put a light on the back of the building that shines directly into my kitchen. Every night I go to wash my dishes and I have a bright light shining in my eyes. I do not need car lights in my kids' rooms as well. Please think about all these things when you vote on this tonight, and please do not open the access.
Hi, my name is Laurie Maroney-Botkin. I live on Cottage Grove. I live directly in the back where that access road is going to. But why am I here? Because I don't think it's right that we're going to be able to open access from where Dunkin' Donuts is and go into where Dollar General and make it all the way through the parking lot of Dave's, cut through the back onto Spring Grove. Now you can get almost to Oakland Beach Avenue without going onto West Shore Road for one street that blocks it. So I'm just here asking you all to take in consideration of not just Spring Grove, but the traffic that it can cause. When people don't want to sit, believe me, I've sat in Wiles Corner, and it took me almost a half hour to get to Cottage Grove with traffic in the summertime. We don't need that through our neighborhoods. I just want to say take that in and think about it. Thank you very much.
Damian McNamara, 41 Spring Grove Ave. As of right now, we have over 500 signatures on an online petition, and we have 80+ signatures just on our street stating that we don't want this access. I can't comprehend how City Council could pass this through knowing that you have 700 signatures that do not want this access, but one man from Dave's Market wants it, and he's going to get it. How does this happen? Can somebody please explain this to me? Okay?
I'm waiting for the chairman.
Councilwoman?
All right, I'm going to back up a little bit, Mr. Chairman. This is mostly for the council people, so they'll be aware. At the very first meeting of this project, it was at the Warwick Public Library. Kelly Coates was there, members of the planning board was there. They had 10 maps there. I attended it, along with Joe Sacacci. There were 7 people. You were there with your wife. 7 people attended that very first meeting. Okay, 7. They sent over 100 letters. 7 people came to that meeting. A lot of discussion was talked about. They showed the maps. Some of the people that they were talking to, they mentioned about doing landscaping here, landscaping there, and this was all mentioned. And it wasn't until they started talking that, of course, people got upset, and now they're hearing, oh, well, this might not be right. But that wasn't how it was from the beginning. When we all sat there, only 7 people attended, and they disagreed.
Did you?
And there was one woman even said she liked it.
There was no notification about what the meeting was about. There was no reference to the access. There was no reference.
Let's
And
allow
it's
the
500
councilwoman to
signatures.
finish.
I'm talking. Can I talk?
Wow.
I mean, there's not 500 people that live on that street. I understand some of the people might not like the access coming from behind the nail salon, and they're all thinking they're all going to head out that way. I don't believe that's going to happen, and we're trying to get
Where's the study? Where's the study?
I'm talking.
Let's allow the councilwoman to finish, and then you will have a chance to speak as well.
What she's
Thank
saying
you.
is ridiculous.
And the thing is, we're trying to get that street light, so that way we can close that
Makes no
up.
sense.
Forget it. You don't want to listen.
I'm sorry. But when I first met Donna at that meeting,
I'm sorry, if you could speak into the mic.
I'm sorry, but when I first met Donna at that meeting, I didn't know she was our representative. I thought she was an employee for Carpianato. She was taking notes for Kelly. And please, Donna, tell me who was your biggest donor last year. And you never once talked to your neighborhood about this. Why did you even push this through? Please
I did not
explain
take
that to
notes
us.
for Carpianato.
Please. How could you put this through and know the whole neighborhood? 80% of the neighborhood doesn't want it. You never talked to us. And I thought you were their employee because you were taking notes for Kelly.
I wasn't taking it for Kelly. I wanted to know what the public had to say.
You told me to be
And 7
quiet.
people didn't have much to say, did they?
It was a meet and greet. A meet and greet. It was so misled.
Vote this no.
For the record, my name is John Reese, 48 Spring Grove Avenue. Reese, R-E-I-S. I wasn't even, originally I was going to come up here and say something, and then I figured I wasn't going to because Maureen had said enough. And quite honestly, after hearing Donna Travis say something, at that meeting, there might have been 7 people there. I wasn't there. I was out of town on business. I don't know where these people were. Maybe they were too. Some of us have jobs. We don't just work down the street. And so I wasn't there. I didn't know what the meeting was all about. I didn't know anything about an access road going in. And so to discount the number of people at that meeting, I mean, that is arrogance. I'm sorry. And another thing I wanted to say as well, and I know that, Kelly Coates came up here, and he would say, essentially, that Dave's is a community business. They're all for the neighborhood. Every time I hear that, the actions speak louder than the words, and quite honestly, it makes my skin crawl when I hear that. I want to take a nice long hot shower after listening to something like that. There's a representative from Dave's up there. It's not Bill Hogan. He's the one that wants the road. He's the one that lived on Spring Grove Avenue. He's the one that calls the shots for Dave's. Is Bill Hogan here? No. Where is he? He's hiding. Instead, he sends somebody here to take notes. Guy doesn't come up here and say a word. And it's like, this is just a disgrace. I live right across where this proposed access road is. Do you think I want headlights shining in? No. And so maybe you guys should really consider that. Leave the politics out of it. When I found out that the mayor's chief of staff was here as part of the planning board as well, that's got to be a conflict of interest. There's got to be some kind of ethics violation there. You can't serve in that kind of dual role. And I want to know if Carpianato contributed to the mayor's campaign, because I'm pretty sure he did. And I know he contributed to Donna Travis's campaign. And so these are things that you need to think about when you're casting these votes. These are taxpayers in the neighborhood. These are the guys paying your salaries. Carpianato, I mean, I get it. It's all business. I get it. Dave's, it's all business. But don't say they care about the neighborhood. It's obvious they don't. I mean, it's laughable. It's a joke. So what I'm asking you guys to do is deny the access. And if none of you have seen a copy of this contract, maybe you should request a copy. Who knows what it says? This could all just be a joker's game. You really should be looking at the contract. And if they want to come up here and start saying that they have something in a contract, if you're going to introduce that evidence or say something like that, that's no longer a private contract. If you're banking on it in a public hearing, that becomes public documentation, and you guys should be requesting that. And so I'm asking you to do that, and I'm asking you to share that with everybody over here so that we know what exactly is in the contract. And I can tell you right now, Dave's is not going to walk away from this. That little shop they got across the street, I mean, it's a supermarket joke. I mean, I know they started out way back, but I mean, it can't compete with all of the markets in the area. There's no way they're going to walk away from this proposed project. And to sit here with a straight face and tell you guys that they will if they don't get the access road, it's all garbage. And so I'm just asking you to just consider what I'm saying. And thank you.
If you could please state your name for the record.
Okay, my name is Pat Urban, and I'm at 102 Spring Grove. And I also wasn't going to come up here and speak after hearing what Maureen had said so eloquently. She said it all. But the fact that I was just chastised by Donna Travis is outrageous. That was an informational meeting. I was not at that meeting. My husband was. What's considered an informational meeting is we gather the information and then we make a decision. And that is exactly what happened. We got the information, we shared it with the neighbors, and we have been here, not just at that informational meeting. Granted, I didn't count, but I wasn't there. But we have been at every other meeting since then. And to say, well, sorry, you weren't at the first meeting in the library, so you can all just go home now, or we've already heard from you. That's outrageous, Donna. You should be apologizing. So that's, and one other thing I just wanted to touch upon is we've all been very open about why we're here and whatever. Kelly Coates has said, well, we're here because Dave's put it in that they want it, that it was in the contract. No one, and a lot of the people here, a lot of you and your peers questioned why we needed that other access. And when they just said, well, it was in the contract, then the answer was, okay, well, Caponato's a great group. Dave's brings in a lot of money for the state. They'll be good for the city, so that's okay. No one has asked Dave's for an explanation. And besides Donald Trump, I find that outrageous also. And we should just give it some thought before you answer yes to this. Thank you.
Are there any other members of the public here who would like to speak? Yes. Please state your name on the record.
Amy Miller, 27 Spring Grove Avenue. Miller. I want to say that I am one of the 7 who has attended every meeting, and it's inconceivable, the comment that she just made about the 7 people who showed up to that meeting specifically to discuss the access road. I myself overheard Donna say that the kids should not play in the street. Quote, I heard it with my own ears. That was your response to us trying to express what we were concerned about for the neighborhood and the safety of the neighborhood. Your only response was to tell your kids, don't go outside. That tells me you're not listening. If you're representing us, you have displayed zero evidence that you represent our interests at all. And it's true what Maureen said. You gave the appearance that you worked for them. I had no idea who you were, and I was very disappointed to find out that you are my representative. Never again will you be. Number 2, they have been doing construction nearly 6 days a week. They show up at 7:30 in the morning. They are loud. They are inconsiderate. They talk as if there is no residential neighborhood behind them. We have pets. We have kids. My dogs bark all day long in response to them carrying on conversations about cultural events, race. They curse, they scream. They've even screamed, wake the F up, people, at 7:30 in the morning that I could hear in my home. They promised us this landscaping. We have had no sound buffering. We have not been contacted by them a single time to ask about our protection. Not one time. They do whatever they want, and you guys don't seem to give any merit to our complaints. They have erected lights on the building. They also shine into my house. The building is not open. There was no reason to start putting lights up at eye level that we can all see standing in our window. There was not been any consideration for us at all. The Hoxie store. I believe that the roadway that goes to Hoxie, Warwick put signage up to prevent people from cutting through the residential neighborhood. You cannot turn right down Airport Road as you approach Dave's Market, correct? I believe that was because of the cut-through traffic of people trying to avoid the backup from Dave's Market. Why would you put signage up to prevent people from cutting through the Hoxie Daves, but not the Spring Groves Daves? Why? There was signage, I believe, on every side street that prohibits people from cutting through and avoiding the light. But now we're talking about creating a cut-through, the same exact reason, so that Dave's doesn't have to pay for a traffic cop. I don't think Warwick doesn't pay for the traffic cop. Dave's pays for the traffic cop so that they can increase their business. I could give if they pay for another one while we wait for a traffic light. We should not be held hostage for their need to increase their profit. Thank you.
Mr. Chairman? May I?
Councilwoman.
Yes. Well, first of all, at that meeting, it was an informational meeting to gather from both sides what Caponata wanted with the proposal and what I took notes of what the constituents wanted. Those were my notes are. And I was introduced as Councilwoman Travis. And I did say that I don't think kids should be playing out in the street openly. These people even testified that there's times, without even Benny's being closed all these months and whatever years, that people are going down that street. So the safety of the kids was a concern because if they shouldn't be playing in the street if cars are going down the street. It wasn't only because of Caponado. That's not the case. I don't work for Caponado, and I was there to see what the impact on these people wanted and what was Caponado offering. And they just love to interrupt, so fine. Let's vote.
Are there any more members of the public who wish to speak? If you could please state your name into the microphone.
I'm Brian Peskin, 160 Spring Grove Avenue, and I'll be very brief because everything's been pretty much said. This
I'm
is
sorry, I couldn't hear you. Could you slow down and speak into the microphone?
Brian Peskin, Peskin, 160 Spring Grove, and I'll be brief because it's all been said already. Spring Grove Avenue is a dead end, so it's kind of a special street. You cannot get in or out, and the kids and the bicycles and the pedestrians. There's a comfort zone there that's not the same. There's not a lot of traffic. It's marked no outlet, and this is a much more substantial change than if it was a through street, which had a fair amount of traffic, or it wouldn't be practical. Our kids play basketball. Little kids ride trikes. It's a safe street. Guy goes up and down his block towing his kids in a little wagon on a string. It's that kind of street. It's different. There will be, with the opening of Spring Grove, a total of 5 entranceways, the other 4 of which have direct, wide, commercial access to West Shore Road. This will require side street, 2-step access, and by the way, it's the back entrance to the building. And if you go drive through there, it's the long way around. So it's almost not the most convenient thing to do. You almost have to go out of your way to do it. Thank you.
Are there any other members of the public who wish to speak? Second, are there any other members of the public who wish to speak? Third, are there any other members of the public who wish to speak? Hearing none, I would request a motion from a member of this committee.
I would move for favorable action.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
The City Council Committee on Public Properties, Land Use, and Community Affairs closes at 7:15 p.m. It has passed the committee for second passage and goes to the full City Council.
The council come to order, and the clerk will call the roll. Here.
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 Councilman Corley, if you could lead us in the Pledge of Allegiance.
Oh, say, can you see by the dawn's early light what so proudly we hailed at the twilight's last gleaming, whose broad stripes and bright stars through the perilous fight o'er the ramparts we watched were so gallantly streaming, and the rocket's red glare, the bombs bursting in air, gave proof through the night that our flag was still there. Oh, say, does that star-spangled banner yet wave o'er the land of the free and the home of the brave?
Thank you. We're going to go to executive communications. There are none. Under general communications, I was going to defer to Councilman Lattisaw.
At this time, I have four wonderful ladies sitting in the front row of the City Council chamber. If you would please come forward. Come on, ladies. You can't be bashful. This is about your friend. So let me start off by introducing the ladies here. This is Flora Papa. This is who this recognition is all about this evening. This is Shirley, one of her friends. These four ladies, by the way, live in St. Elizabeth's Terrace, right down the street. She helps everybody out. This is Linda, who also lives there. And this is my mom, Asa Lattiser, who also lives there. So oftentimes we have groups and organizations and individuals who are always looking to do so much for the community, looking to do so much for the neighborhood. And it's very difficult to find people to volunteer to serve on committees, serve on boards, etc. And it's particularly impressive when we have a lady such as Flora, who is 94 years old, who lives at St. Elizabeth's Terrace, and without anyone asking, takes care of all the landscaping in front of this beautiful facility, which is probably a couple of 100 feet of landscaping. Not only does she do all the plantings by herself, she pays for all the plantings. And we're not talking about just a little flower thing here and there. I'm talking about flowers. And they have these giant columns all across the front of this building. And she decorates them. Right now, they're decorated with all the corn stalks. I don't have the energy to do that. But she does, and she does it with great enthusiasm. And I think it's particularly important when you have a senior citizen such as this lady right here at 94 years old who takes the initiative to do that to please the other folks that she lives with in that building and just do it because she wants to do something good certainly deserves recognition. So this evening, on behalf of the mayor of the city of Warwick and this entire city council, we are going to present this resolution of condolences to Rosa Papa. And it says, be resolved that whereas Rosa Papa, 94, is being honored by friends and family for her commitment and dedication to St. Elizabeth's Terrace. Rosa decorates for various holidays, plants flowers, and takes pride in beautifying the landscape for all her neighbors to enjoy. And whereas Rosa was born in Providence, Rhode Island on April 8th, 1925, and is the mother of Joseph and Robert. And whereas throughout her life, her top priority was to provide a stable home environment to which raise her family and provide her children with opportunities to advance their education and lives. And whereas Rosa is a loyal woman and friend, Flora, sorry. Don't, Flora, right, Flora, sorry. Throughout her life, her top priority is to provide a stable home and environment. I'm repeating. Whereas Flora is a loyal woman and friend who has always been there to help her friends and family and expecting nothing in return. And whereas during her long and productive lifetime, she has earned the respect and affection of people from all walks of life and all ages because of her knowledge, experience, wisdom, and community spirit. And whereas in recognition of Flora's contributions to our community and our citizens, we hereby express our deep appreciation for her service to our community in St. Elizabeth's Terrace. Now, therefore, it be resolved, the mayor and the Warwick City Council extend to Flora Papa our deep appreciation for her distinguished service and wish her health and happiness in the years ahead. A true copy of resolution is adopted by the Warwick City Council, approved by the mayor, and signed unanimously by all members of the City Council. Flora, thank you very much. Don't start crying. You make us all cry.
Thank you for everything. I appreciate all of you being here tonight to hear this. I just happen to love flowers, and I can't go by anybody's property to see a flower that I want to steal. I actually want to pull it up from the ground. And my grandchildren always say, you can't do that, you can't do that. I want that flower. And there was one flower that I saw that I wanted desperately. It was at a restaurant. And I told my grandson, I'm going in because I want that flower. I never saw that before. Grandma, you can't do that. Yes, I can. So I went in the restaurant. I said, excuse me, where did that flower come from? And I want it. Can I pull it up? And they said, no, you can't do that. The owner's not here. I said, would you call the owner, please, and tell him I want that flower? It never happened. I never got that flower. It was just beautiful. So that's what I'm all about. My name is Flora, and it represents flowers also. And when I was in Europe, it was Flora Restaurant, Flora Flowers. Everything was Flora, and I was not impressed with it because I was so young. But in my old age now, I'm impressed with the gratitude that I get and the accolades that I have received. Thank you, Ed, so much for this.
Thank you. Thank you all very much. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you, everyone.
I'll tell you, I am at the moment, but I mean, if you're offering me something, I can change that.
Flora did tell me, by the way, that she's not interested in a full-time job, but she might consider a part-time job. I just hope she never considers a run for city council.
Under general communications, are there any other general communications from council members? Yes, Councilman Qualley.
Yes, unfortunately, James Gillis passed away on November 11, 2019, and I have a resolution of condolences that each member of the City Council has signed and the mayor has signed, and I will make sure that the resolution of condolences is delivered to the Gillis family because Jim was laid to rest on Saturday.
Thank you. Councilman Ricks.
A brief announcement. I think it's working now. Okay, thank you. A brief announcement. The Norwood Neighborhood Association is having a meeting on Wednesday evening, this Wednesday, 7 o'clock at the Norwood Boys and Girls Club. The topic is opioid addiction, and there will also be information on Narcan and an opportunity to get Narcan for free, as well as instructions on how to use it if there's an occasion where you're present where you find that a person is overdosing. So it'll be an informative meeting, and it could be very important, giving folks the opportunity to even save a life. Thank you.
Councilman Lattisaw.
Oh, yes, thank you, Mr. President. Flora, I need to make a correction. It was just brought to my attention. That was a resolution of congratulations. I need to make that correction. And thank you for my colleagues. Sometimes you prefer they weren't listening so closely. Congratulations.
Councilwoman Travis.
And I just wanted to mention that the Volunteers of Warwick School had their chopstick auction Saturday, and it was a great success, and I want to thank the council people that did attend. We had a great turnout.
Thank you. I did want to make one announcement that Councilman Sinapi can't be with us tonight. He's traveling and he's out of the state on business. So the first item on the agenda is the we'll skip, there are no acceptance of minutes, so we'll skip to a presentation by the Warwick School Committee regarding the bonds. There's people here to speak on behalf of the school committee. Just state your name for the record.
Karen Bacchus, Chairwoman, Warwick School Committee. The school committee is here, and the Warwick Public Schools are here this evening per our request to provide a presentation on our accomplishments for the bond phase 1 release of cash over the past summer, and to request that the phase 2 cash request be docketed for the next meeting. At this time, all of our projects are on time and on or under budget. We have undertaken 5 fire alarms in this phase. 3 are completed, 2 will be completed by early winter of 2020. Abatement projects have been completed. Roofing projects at Tollgate, Sherman, and Wyman. Americans with Disability Acts, building access is to be completed shortly at Cedar Hill. And we have American with Disability Act playgrounds going in, and they will be completed at Warwick Neck and Lippet in the spring of 2020. We also have replaced interior locks and hardware in all schools, and we're going out to bid for what is needed going forward. At this time, I would like to introduce Superintendent Thornton and Mr. Anthony Ferrucci to give you a more detailed update. Thank you very
Thank you.
much.
Hello and good evening. Just really quickly, Ms. Bacchus did sum up the last year's tally, if you will.
Just announce yourself for the record, if you will.
Philip Thornton, School Superintendent. I know last year when we came in front of the chambers, there was a desire to make sure we did what we said we were going to do and come back and talk about next year's conversation. And I think, as you'll see, we did exactly what we said we were going to do, either on budget or under budget. So that's really great news. Tonight, we'll have Mr. Fucci just take you through what the plans would entail for next summer's release, if you will. So without further ado, I'll give it to Mr. Fucci to take you through next summer and take any questions you may have on that.
Thank you.
Good evening, Council President, members of the committee. As Anthony Ferrucci, Director of Finance for the School Department, as the superintendent had mentioned, we have been very successful on Phase 1, first release of cash. There is a public report on the website that's been scorekeeping, so folks can keep an eye on it. In the package that was provided to the council members, it's actually the last 3 or 4 documents in the package, because the first portion is about our Phase 2, bond Phase 1, second request for cash. But the details that we're speaking to are included in your package. And as I'd mentioned, we learned a lot this past year with the 16 projects that we took on. We learned a lot about the implementation of playgrounds. And so this coming summer of 2020 and going into the school year through 2021, we're here before you this evening asking for a release of cash for the second set of projects. There are a number of projects that we identified last year where we actually received the funds in our first release to have designs in the architect and engineering service fees. Those bids are just about ready to go out on the street. So to let vendors know that the cash is available to pay them will make it extremely competitive, and we believe it's going to reduce our costs going forward into next year's summer projects. So what we have before you this evening is what we're referring to as Bond Phase 1 Cash Release 2.
Mr. Frucci, sorry to interrupt you for a sec, but this bond referendum that we're speaking about, just for the edification of everybody that's here, was a bond referendum that the voters passed in the fall of 2018, correct?
That is
and
correct.
that was for $40 million.
That is correct.
And could you also refresh our recollection as to what the state contributes to that?
The state at a minimum is contributing 35%, but with incentives, we're looking at 3 incentives equaling 5% per incentive of about another 15%. So we're expecting compensation of about 50% of that bond to be reimbursed to the community.
So of the 40 million, 20 million would be, you're hoping to get 20 million reimbursed
That is correct.
by the state?
That is correct.
Thank you. If you could proceed.
Thank you. So in the second release of cash we're looking for are the projects that we anticipated doing. With the discussions of the possibility of high schools, you'll notice that there are no high school projects earmarked until that decision is made in the near future. So what we're focusing on this evening in total is going to be 27 projects that we want to take on next year. Again, we did 16 this year. Excuse me, 26 projects.
Mr. Ferrucci, sorry to interrupt you again, but when you say projects,
yes,
could you just bring us through how these projects get developed, and it's not all your choices, if you will, and it's what the state requires. They come in, they look at our buildings. If you're going to get reimbursed, you need to do X, Y, and Z.
Happy to do that. Going back before the $40 million bond referendum went before the voters, there was a significant studies completed by internally SMMA on behalf of the school committee and externally an agency called Jacobs. Both those organizations identified over $200 million worth of projects that needed to be undertaken throughout the district, and their determination was within a 5-year window. That's how severe the needs were with regards to each of our buildings. From those two reports, the school committee created a building committee, of which I chair, and that building committee went through those $200 million worth of projects and made recommendations collectively. And it's a joint effort between 4 folks from the city side and 5 folks from the school side as we compile the roster. The roster was vetted publicly and then brought before the school committee, who then endorsed the plan. So out of that $200 million worth of projects, we whittled it down to the top $40 million worth of need. And going forward, once the bond referendum, which identified all those projects, was prior to going to the referendum, it went up to the state. They validated the need, and that's where they ended up endorsing the 50%. And from that roster of work, we are cherry picking the most pressing things and what's feasibly accomplishable in any given summer. So we're working off of this predefined roster, off of a $200 million menu of things that needed to be accomplished.
And also to refresh everybody's recollection, it was the testimony of the school department that obviously you couldn't go out to get these you couldn't go out and get all these projects done at once.
That's correct.
They have to be phased in over time. As old bonds are retired, new bonds can be created. So it puts the situation, the city in a situation where they can float bonds at an even rate and not at a large amount. And it was the testimony of the school committee, even though last year you were asking for more money, that it would have taken 4 years and not 2. And it was the idea of this council and the mayor at the time to do 40 million, because that's all you could do in 2 years anyway. And considering what had happened in the past with bonds being frozen by the Avedisian administration for, I think it was about six or 7 years, that we, the council, would be able to get updates as to whether you're getting money, whether the money was being released, how fast it was being released, and how accurate your forecasts were about getting those projects completed on a timely manner and on budget. And that's why you're here before us tonight, to tell us that the money has been released, it has been timely, you're on forecast, in some cases you're under budget, correct?
That is all correct, yes, sir.
Thank you.
Excuse me. With that backdrop, we're now prepared to try and move forward with the next release. And again, we'll hold this accountable to the school department. We will create a public document, and we will carry both the original and now the second one. We will refer to them as Cash Release 1 and Cash Release 2. And each succeeding year going forward, when we come forward asking, we will mark those projects as Cash Release 3, Cash Release 4, and we'll continue to publicly present how those projects are proceeding so that folks can be aware of what we're accomplishing as we move forward. So to kind of move things along, again, our second release this evening is for 26 construction projects in total. It's 7 fire alarms. These are the last 7. After next summer, we will have completed all of our fire alarm projects. We're looking at 5 abatement projects. That would leave 1 after next school year. We've got 5
When you say abatement, is that asbestos? And
Yes. Yes.
Obviously a need.
Absolutely.
Thank you.
ADA projects, this is to make our buildings accessible. It could be from reducing thresholds to opening the widths of door spans so wheelchairs can pass through, as well as putting in restroom facilities at all of our facilities rather than having just one handicap facility in a building. All of them will be accessible. After the 5 for next year, that'll leave 13 projects over the future. We're looking at 7 elementary playgrounds. So we did 2 this year. We learned a lot, as I had mentioned earlier. That will leave 5 additional playgrounds to be done in the future. And there are 4 roofs that we're looking at for next summer that would leave 4 additional roofs over the course of time. All of those projects in totality is $8.1 million in construction costs. There are some soft costs on those $8 million worth, about $92,000, because we got a small project in there that we hadn't anticipated, but it's part of that grouping. And then the last piece that makes up our request is $1.5 million, and that's the A&E costs associated with the projects we're proposing to do in 2021-22. And in the sheets that are attached, there's color coding as to which projects we've identified that make up the $8 million. Sheets for the public are located behind me that has that. The sheets were presented to the City Council earlier. I believe they were released yesterday. And so the total of all the projects that we're talking about is $9.8 million. One thing that's very unique this year, under the release of the $250 million of bonding at the state level, there is a grant-paying program called Pay-As-You-Go, and that's a state reimbursement. And what's happening is, under all models of state reimbursement, the 50% we spoke about a moment ago, normally what would happen is the city would have to go borrow all the money that I'm talking about tonight, and then over the next 25 years, the state would pay its portion of that debt service. Under the pay-as-you-go model, the state actually has cash in bank today. And so rather than paying over the debt service life of 25 years, they're able to pay up front the funds that are obligated to the city. And in just a simple concept for me to explain, when a $1,000 bill comes in for a vendor, the state will give us a check for $350 to pay the vendor today, and the community would pay the other $650. That extra $650 is coming out of what I'm asking for the city to move forward this evening. So out of the $9.8 million, the state has set aside $2.9 million in pay-as-you-go. So this evening, the school committee is asking for authorization for the city council to seek $6.8 million of cash from the $40 million authorized bond, knowing that the state will pony up their 2.9 as the $1,000 bills roll in. I will be working with city finance, because if you do the math, that's less than the 35% that the state owes, plus the 5% incentives. I will be working with city finance to assure us that we receive the whole 50% that's due us. So the state will pay its pro rata share on the $6 million up to that 50% mark. And we will work together to make sure that that's accomplished. We're very excited about the prospects of what we're achieving in our schools. We encourage folks to come out and walk through our schools and see what we're doing. The playground, I think, in the spring is going to be very exciting. It's going to energize the community. And so we seek your support this evening, and we're happy to answer any questions. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Is there any questions, Councilman Lattiser?
Thank you, Mr. President. Mr. Ferrucci, we've recently had a conversation about this, and you've just spoken to one of my big concerns, and I want to be sure that it is engraved in the record. and that is about monitoring the state return. And as I expressed to you in that conversation, I'll express it again this evening, my concern is that government changes, positions change, people change. Those of us that are here now very well may not be here by the time this bond runs out. And it's very important to not only myself, but all of my colleagues, that there is a plan in place that whether Mr. Ferrucci is here or whether the superintendent is here or whether our finance department is here or the city council or the mayor, that there is a formal plan in place on the record that is going to ensure that this 35 to 50% return of investment is going to be carried forward. And that's one of the reasons or one of the issues that is certainly very important to me in my consideration as to what I want to do with this. So that's a confirmation, correct?
That's correct. The intent in our office is, since I have created worksheets internally as to what the school department's expectations are, is to seek signatures from the Rhode Island Department of Education and submit those to city finance, so they'll have them in time before they go seek the release of the actual bond cash of the $6.8 million. It will become part of our closing documents so that the school department will have an expectation with a signed document from the Rhode Island Department of Education. City finance would have a copy of that document as well, because similarly to both the local governmental agencies, folks up at RIDE come and go as well. And so my fear is those folks will forget what those promises are, so we will have their signatures on file. I will assure you that they get filed before we seek cash.
In addition to that, Mr. Ferrucci, sometimes, information is slow-moving in government. So in addition to that, as you communicate with the finance department of the city, I would want to have it on the record that those communications would be shared with the city council. Because I know one thing, as finance chair, I want to know what's going on. And I don't want to have to wait for someone else to send me the information. I want you to send me the information.
Happy to do that.
We agree? Okay, thank you.
And that would be that would be a memorandum of understanding that you would have with the state that would be on record here.
Absolutely.
Thank you.
And we'd get a copy of that memorandum of
Absolutely.
understanding. Thank you.
Councilman Howe.
Thank you, Mr. President. Good evening, Mr. Ferrucci and members of the school committee and superintendent. You mentioned in your to-do list, if you will, 5 different projects to address ADA needs within the district. I know you said after that there'll be 13 remaining. Could you tell me, please, the priority list of how you came up with that? Was that something having to do with the population of the school and where the most is needed, or the most in-depth, most needed to meet the learning of the students? Like, how did you come up with, because 18 is quite a bit. I'm saying this as in, it's kind of like astounding that in, I believe it was 1991, the ADA law was signed by President H.W. Bush, and we're playing catch-up. And I can't thank you enough for identifying that and prioritizing that. Sincerely, I can't thank you enough for that. But how did you choose those 5 over the 18, if you don't mind, quick?
Happy to do that. It was a combination of what was most critical. If there was some student safety issue, that put it to the top of the pile. If they were all similar in nature, again, if it's the bathrooms in particular, they're all situated in the same thing. It really turned into logistics with regards to what the construction schedule is going to look like for next summer and what schools were being impacted. So taking into account some of the summer programs that had to take place, or the feasibility of what buildings to clean. There was conversations that maybe if we concentrated construction in a particular school, we can then clean a school that's not having construction. Then we can take that cleaning team into the school that had construction over the summer. So all of those factors factored in. But if there's a student safety issue, that put it to the top of the pile. Sure. If it's all similar in nature, then it turned into logistics of running the projects over the summer.
So of the 13 that are remaining, I'm trying to ask this because honestly, it's something that just amazes me, the logistics that go into it. You just described some of it. Of the 13 projects that are remaining of the ADA, do any of them, such as mobility for students in buildings, are any of them having to do with that? I understand you said the restrooms. I understand you said but let's say like a building that needs an elevator doesn't have an elevator, a building that needs a ramp, a stage ramp, so that the student with the wheelchair can get up on the stage because there's only stair access. Is that the stuff that...
Those would be the pieces that impact student learning the most. They would come to the top. And again, it wasn't necessarily a student safety issue because we've been working around it, so it didn't bring it to the top. But that would impact our next round of decisions. Again, we'll coordinate that with the activities going on in the district. I believe Cedar Hills elevator is the one that we're going to try and address for the following year because it's been cited with regards to access to a playground, et cetera. So all those issues come before us at the building committee. Our architect and our owner's rep, Mr. Gothberg, they prepare recommendations and we vet those and we challenge those assumptions to get to the points that you just raised this evening.
Thank you very much, Ms. Ferrucci. Thank you, Mr. President.
Thank you. Councilwoman Travis.
Thank you. Mr. Ferrucci, I know Karen mentioned there were five fire alarms that were worked in phase 1. 3 were completed. What are the 2 that are not completed?
The cost came in above budget, so we end up going out to bid. The 2 that are finishing up this fall are Robinson and Warwick Neck. And we're close to completion on those 2.
Robinson
They'll
and
be done
Warwick
before
Neck.
Christmas.
In the phase 2, you're saying there's going to be 7 more. Is
That's
there any
correct.
more after that? I didn't write that one.
No, there isn't. These are the last
That's
7.
what I thought that was.
That's
Okay.
correct.
So Robinson and Warwick Neck is still going to work out of phase 1, and then phase 2, you got 7 to do.
Yes, and I'm happy to read them into the record if you're interested in who they are.
Okay.
If you'd
Very
like me to
good.
do that.
And the roofs?
Yes.
I know you said, how many, did you do any roofs this year?
We did 3 roofing projects, yes. Tollgate, Sherman, and Wyman.
And you're going to do 4 next time, right?
That's correct.
How many's remaining? I tried to catch...
There are 4 more
4
to
more,
be
okay.
done, yes.
All right, thank you.
Councilman McAllister.
Thank you. And I just wanted to point out, you had mentioned it, but I think this is a very good resource, not just for me, but for everyone of the public, that you have the website that you've been updating. You go right on it, the bond-funded capital projects. This lists out who's on the committee. You have bid announcements on here, important dates, the committee members, the agendas, the minutes. It lays out where we are, what projects you're working on, what projects you've completed, what the next step is. And I think this is a very important step. I think this is what we're here, open, and it lets everybody see where we are in the process. And I just wanted to mention that because I find that very helpful, and I think that's a great resource for everyone here in the city.
Thank you.
Is there any other questions from council members? If not, thank you for your presentation. We'll docket something tonight. Next on the agenda is public comment. Pursuant to Rule 41, after the general communications and prior to the consent calendar at each city council public hearing meeting, there shall be a 15-minute period during which citizens may make comment about Warwick City government issues, subject to the following stipulations. The total period of time for public comment shall be 15 minutes. Comments need to be brief in order to allow as many citizens as possible to participate. The topics for comment shall be issues directly affecting city government, City council members will not be responding to questions during the public comment period. The public comment session will terminate at the expiration of 15 minutes. Waiver of these provisions requires unanimous consent. I believe 8 members of the public had signed up. A little over a minute apiece. The first person on the list is Rob Cody.
You really can't say much in a minute, but, you know, it never ceases to amaze me how mathematics works so differently inside this building as it does on the outside. You know, we've all read the article of the mayor bragging about the new fire contract that's going to save $450,000. Except what he didn't put in the debit column is that he's rescinding the appeal on the Tier 2 pension system, which is going to cost the residents $3 million. So if you minus $450,000 by $3 million, it tells me we're going to take a hit of $2.55 million. But he didn't let anybody know that. And you know what else he didn't let anybody know? About the fiscal note and the tentative agreement. I got called by the media today that contacted this office wanting to know where the fiscal note was and where the tentative agreement was, and that media person was told, we haven't completed them yet. So he hasn't completed the tentative agreement, but he knows that we're going to have a $450,000 savings, but he forgot the debit side of the column. The fact of the matter is that when this new contract comes before this council, you people have to release the fiscal note and the tentative agreement to the general public. And the reason that you have to do that is that there is not one person that sits on this council that has the skill set to scrutinize the documents. And I don't say that to disparage you. I say that because of the last 9 years you've shown us. You've missed it for 9 years. The manipulation, the coercion, and the monies that went out the door. I'm not done, Mr. Marola. You can give me the latitude for another minute. After all, I've given you a lot of my time.
So, Mr. Cody, these are laws that we have to abide by.
And you can easily rescind them by breaking the law.
So
like everything else is done. You can just...
Okay.
Look, I'm asking you for another minute, and I think I deserve it.
I understand. If there are other people that don't talk, we can reconsider that.
So my point is, we have seen that there has been manipulations in these contracts.
Mr. Cody, my statement was if there are other people, and there may be other people that don't want to talk, then we can add that a minute on for you. I don't know if all these people are going to talk, but I would like to at least call the next person. Is Maureen?
Sure, if they're signed up, they want to talk, right?
I don't know. They might have already spoken. Okay. Is Maureen McNamara here? Would you like to speak? Okay.
I just want to express my concern again for the zoning ordinance that's put forth for second passage tonight. Again, I want to reiterate that it does not comply with the city's comprehensive plan. And my other concern, too, is that we don't have a city solicitor. So in that zone change, they also propose a light, a traffic light. And I'm not sure that that proposal in there or that stipulation is even legal. There's so many concerns. But either way, I just want to reiterate my point again, that that zone change does not comply with the comprehensive plan. It is a negative impact to our neighborhood. And with the other information I presented earlier tonight, I hope that you vote no. It's the right thing to do. You're here to protect the public. And that's what we're asking you to do.
Thank you. Lisa Messina, you're all set? Michelle Marandola? Okay. Lori? All set? Pat Urban? Bill Jarvie? Go ahead, Bill.
Thank you. My name is Bill Jarvie, Jarvie. Thank you, Warwick City members, council, through Rule 41, public comment. I own the property at 34 Urban Avenue, Rhode Island 02888. My adjoining neighbor at 44 Urban Avenue has had several building violations. For example, peeling exterior paint with possible lead contamination, 3 unregistered cars, 2 Jaguars, 1 pickup truck, holes in the fascia with squirrels and other animals entering and exiting the building, unregistered boat and trailer. Since 2008, I have contacted the mayor's office, both Aphrodisian and Solomon. With Mayor Solomon, I have sent 3 notices to have a personal meeting with him and have been denied all 3 times. One of them was a registered letter. I've also contacted the municipal court, Warwick Minimum Housing, and my previous town councilman, Steve Colorino, and current town councilman, Richard Corley. I've also sent communication with William D. Pasquale, CC the emails to Steve Marilla, president of Warwick Council. To date, nothing's been resolved. A well-known football coach from our area has a saying, do your job. I've been waiting patiently for 11 years for someone to do their job. Thank you and have a great day making Warwick, Rhode Island great. Bill Jarvie.
Thank you. John Reese. If you could come up, if you could come up to the mic, sir, because that's fine. Go ahead, Mr. Cody.
Thank you, Councilman Marola. So my point that I'm trying to get at is, you know, the taxpayers have been taking it on the chin for a long time. And in terms of this fire department, we've taken it on the chin because our elected officials failed to read the fine print. And it's cost us millions of dollars, right? So not only did we miss all these things in the contract, the contract manipulation, the unused vacation time, the unused sick time, the holidays, the manipulation of the medical examinations. We paid for all that. You guys missed it. And it's not just everybody here, it's past and present councils missed it. The council solicitor, the lawyer missed it. The members of the general public had to find it and bring it to your attention. So we just don't have that warm, fuzzy feeling that you have the capabilities to scrutinize a contract and understand it. And quite frankly, from comments that were made from city council members during ratification of contracts, my council member asked questions which clearly showed that not only did he not read the contract, but whatever little he did read, he didn't understand. So my point is this. We're at a pivotal point here. You all know what's going down behind the scenes with this fire department. And now all of a sudden we're going to give it away. More raises. They just robbed these people over the last several years. And this guy in the corner office, remember that? As soon as we get the corner office, things are going to change. They've changed for the worse. Look at this mathematics. We're going to save $450,000, but he doesn't come publicly and say, we're rescinding the appeal on the Tier 2 system, which is going to cost these people $3 million. You may be able to pull the wool over some people's eyes, Mr. Solomon, but it's not going to happen to me. Thank you.
Thank you. Next item on the agenda is announcement of appointments. There are none. Next item is appointments requiring confirmation. There are none. We'll move to the consent calendar, which is PCR 175-19, a resolution relative to bids. Committee report, finance.
Favorable action.
For action, Councilman Lattisaw.
Move favorable action on PCR 175-19.
Seconded by Councilman McAllister. Councilman Howell. Go ahead, Councilman Lattisaw.
First item, 2020-184, workstations, laptops. Favorable action. Next item, 2020-189, food products. Favorable action. 2020-190, radar calibrations and repairs. Favorable action. 2020-196, pipe fittings and valves has become PCR 176-19. 2020-211, dump trucks has become PCR 177-19. 2020-220, natural gas contract has become PCR 178-19. 2020-226, service investigations, favorable action.
Thank you. So there were 7 items on the consent calendar. 3 have been removed. All were talked about in committee. The four that we are going to vote on consent calendar. Are there any questions from council members that did not get to ask questions on those four items in the Finance Committee? If not, the clerk will call the roll, and a yes is to approve. Yes.
Yes.
Yes. Yes.
Yes.
Yes.
PCR 175-19 stands passed. We'll move to the first removed item, which is bid number 2020-196, now PCR 176-19, committee report, finance.
The committee recommends favorable action as amended.
For action, Councilman Lattiser, are you going to move it?
We have an amendment, Mr.
If you
President.
can move it.
The amendment is to award...
Councilman, we just have to move it first. Move PCR.
Move PCR 176-19.
Seconded by Councilwoman Travis, Councilman McAllister, Councilman Howe. Go ahead.
We have an amendment to award the bid to E.J. Prescott, John Hoadley, Core and Maine, and Jack Foley for item 16-J.
So you're moving that as your
As
amendment?
amended.
Is there a second on the amendment? Councilman Howe. Are there any questions on the amendment? If not, a yes is to approve the amendment, and the clerk will call the roll. Abstain.
Yes.
Yes. Yes.
Yes.
Yes.
PCR 176-19, the amendment stands passed. If you could move it as amended, Councilman
Move
Lattiser.
favorable action on PCR 176-19 as amended.
Seconded by Councilman McAllister, Councilman Howe. Any questions on PCR 176-19 as amended? If not, the clerk will call the roll, and a yes is to approve as amended. Abstain.
Yes.
Yes. Yes.
Yes.
Yes.
PCR 176-19 as amended stands passed. Next item that was removed from the Finance Committee bid package was bid number 2020-211, which is now PCR 177-19, committee report, finance.
Favorable action on PCR 177-19.
So recommendation is for favorable action,
Yes.
Councilman. If you
Move
could move
favorable
it.
action on PCR 177-19.
Seconded by Councilman McAllister, Councilman Howe. You have an amendment?
We have an amendment on it, Mr. President, and the amendment is to encompass 2 fiscal years. We'll be purchasing 2 trucks this year in the 2019-20 fiscal year, potentially 2 in 2020-21, and the amendment will read, be it further resolved, 220-211, also referred to as PCR 177-19, is an affirmative action of the City Council in the city toward the execution and delivery of lease purchase financing documents with respect to bid number 2020-211, in accordance with the purposes of the laws of the state. This resolution constitutes the city's declaration of official intent pursuant to Treasury Regulation 1.150 in parenthesis 2, to reimburse the city for certain expenditures paid on or after the date of which it is 60 days prior to the date of this resolution, but prior to the execution and delivery of the lease purchase financing documents. Such amounts to be reimbursed shall not exceed $612,660 and shall be reimbursed not later than 18 months after the date on which the expenditure is paid or the date the property is placed in service or abandoned, but no event later than 3 years after the date the expenditure is paid. That is the amendment, and the recommendation is for favorable action as amended.
Thank you. Are there any questions that council members have now that they didn't have in the Finance Committee meeting? If not, the amendment has been moved and seconded. A yes is to approve the amendment to PCR 177-19 regarding the lease purchase repayment provisions. as read into the record by Councilman Lattisaw. Again, a yes is to approve the amendment, and the clerk will call the roll. Yes.
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 The amendment to PCR 177-19 stands passed. Councilman Lattisaw, if you could move it as amended.
Move favorable as amended on PCR 177-19.
Seconded by Councilman McAllister. Councilman Howe. Any discussion on PCR 177-19 as amended? Yes is to approve, and the clerk will call the roll. Yes.
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 PCR 177-19 as amended stands passed. Next item that was removed from the Finance Committee bid package during the Finance Committee was bid number 2020-220, now PCR 178-19, Committee Report, Finance.
Committee recommends favorable action.
For action, Councilman Lattisaw.
Recommended favorable action on PCR 178-19 with an amendment.
Seconded by Councilman McAllister. Councilman Howe. You would like to move the amendment?
The amendment will be to reduce the amount from December 2019 through 2022, reduce the amount from $4.64 a DT to $4.59. I'm sorry, $4.59. That is the amendment. Recommend favorable action on the amendment.
So Councilman Lattisaw has moved the amendment, reducing the amount, seconded by Councilman McAllister. Councilman Howe. Is there any discussion on the amendment? And this is regarding the gas.
Natural gas contract.
And it's been reduced from 464 to 459.
To 459, correct.
That's the amendment. Okay, is there any questions from council members that they didn't have in the Finance Committee regarding reducing the amount of this bid and the amendment? If not, the clerk will call the roll, and a yes will be to approve the amendment to PCR 178-19. Yes.
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 The amendment stands passed. Councilman Lattisaw, if you could move it as amended.
Move favorable action as amended on PCR 178-19.
Councilman Lattisaw moves it as amended, seconded by Councilman McAllister. Councilman Howe. Any discussion on PCR 178-19 now that it's been amended? If not, the clerk will call the roll, and a yes is to approve. Yes.
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 PCR 178-19 as amended stands passed. Next item on the agenda is PCO 1619, an ordinance amending the zoning ordinance of the City of Warwick, 2574 West Shore Road, Capianato Properties, LLC petitioner. This is for second passage. Committee report, land use.
Committee recommends favorable action.
For action, Councilwoman Travis.
I move favorable action on PCO-18-19.
Seconded by Councilman McAllister. Is there any discussion on this? Councilwoman Travis.
Yes, I just want to state that I understand where the people are talking about because it's right next to their property. And I know if this was being built near any one of our property, there'd be a different group of people probably being the same thing upset. I'm definitely going to fight more for that traffic light. I am definitely going to stay close with Kelly Coates and the Capianato program to make sure that they do what they say they're going to do. And I think we could all work together to be better neighbors. But I think you're going to understand that it's a good project, and I do understand the issue. And if it was anywhere else in any one of Warwick, we would have the same people, different people, not these people, but a different group of people concerned too. So I understand that, but hopefully we can move forward and be good neighbors to each other, and this business can go forward. So thank you.
Thank you. I was just going to reiterate the testimony that we had at the last meeting, which were there was two issues that were concerning to me or persuasive in my vote the last time. One was that this is not the last meeting. There is another meeting on this. So there is another vetting process. The second issue is there were time factors, and what I did hear, and I listened quite intently to everybody's testimony, was that if there was no access, I like to start off where we all agree rather than where we disagree, but if there was no access to Spring Green Avenue, everybody's okay with this project. And I think that's where we all are. And I also heard testimony from the Capianato group that they were very, I don't want to even say optimistic, but sure that this light was going to get approved. And they come before us a lot. And when there are time frames involved, where you're trying to get a project in on time that's good, that everybody believes in and can support, and there is a fail-safe mechanism, which is there's another meeting where you can stop it. If this project comes forward without that light, I can tell you this council member is going to be very, very disappointed. So, you know, I expect that light to go in. There is another hearing on this, and I hope that we haven't got everybody riled up because there's a fast pace on the project to try and get a good project in for the neighborhood without access to that road. But that was the representations that were made by the Capianato group. I believe that that's what's going to happen. And I have yet to be proven wrong when it comes to their representations to this council. So that's why I voted yes last time, and that's why I'm going to vote yes this time. Councilman Corley.
This is not the last time that the issue will be before the city for passage, but I did hear some things during the public comment session that I want to comment on, and that is that all of you that are holding the signs and people that were making complaints, there are stipulations that control the passage that we gave last time. I heard people complaining about lighting. The first stipulation is that all exterior lighting and signage shall be designed and installed to minimize negative impacts on the neighboring residential properties. The lighting design shall be dark sky compliant to the extent practicable. Glare from outdoor lights, signs, and from movement of vehicles on site shall be shielded from the view of adjacent properties. If you are saying that that is being violated, then you should contact the city planning department and property maintenance. A second item that you have brought up is that the access to Spring Grove Avenue. The stipulation is that the access to Spring Grove Avenue, let me start over. Spring Grove Avenue shall be limited to local access only. All truck deliveries are limited to the major arterial roadway, and that's West Shore Road. And the other thing that I heard was the issue concerning the traffic light. The fifth stipulation is that if the Rhode Island Department of Transportation approves the installation of the traffic and control light, then the existing access drive leading from the development site to Spring Grove Avenue will be closed. The existing access drive may remain with a closed gate if deemed necessary by the Warwick Fire Department for occasional emergency access. So if any of these stipulations are not being followed, you have an avenue to make complaint, and it will also be taken into account at the next step in the process.
Thank you. Are there any other comments from council members? If not, it's been moved and seconded. A yes is to approve. The clerk will call the roll. Yes.
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 Yeah, yes.
Yes.
PCR 1619 stands past second passage. Next item on the agenda is PCO 1815, an ordinance regarding the trash collection of large items and heavy pickups. Committee report ordinance.
Favorable action with an amendment.
For action, Councilman Lattiser.
Oh, yes. Thank you, Mr. President. I'll just hold back for a minute or so.
Do you have a?
Yes,
It's
I'm
for
just going to hold until we
Okay,
get the chamber
and it's
clear.
with an you said with an amendment. You want to move the amendment?
Yes.
All right. What's the amendment?
Move favorable with the amendment as amended.
Okay. And so Councilman Lattiser moves an amendment, seconded by Councilwoman Travis, Councilman McAllister, Councilman Corley. If you could read that amendment into the record.
I will be amending Section 2282 to delete the language "or by imprisonment not exceeding 6 months."
Okay. It's been moved and seconded. Was there
And,
any question?
Also,
Yes.
I'm sorry, that is the only amendment. Sorry.
Yeah. Are there any questions that council members didn't have in the ordinance committee or regarding this amendment that they didn't have an opportunity to ask? If not, a yes is to approve the amendment, and the clerk will call the roll. Yes.
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 The amendment to PCO 1815 stands passed. Councilman Lattiser, if you could move it as amended.
Move favorable as amended on PCO 18-15.
Seconded by Councilman McAllister. Councilman Howe. Councilwoman Travis. Any discussion on PCO 1815 as amended? If not, a yes is to approve, and the clerk will call the roll. Yes.
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 PCO 1815 as amended stands passed for first passage. Next item on the agenda is PCO 719, the Pension Board, first passage, not drafted. Committee report, Finance. It's held?
Hold December 2nd.
Held till December 2nd. Next item on the agenda is PCO 1019, an ordinance in regard to water discharge. That's first passage. It's not drafted. Committee report, ordinance.
Hold to January 6th.
Held till January 6th. Next item on the agenda is PCO 1319, an ordinance in regards to no parking heretofore on Chapman's Avenue, 405 Chapman's to 420 Chapman's. First passage, committee report, ordinance.
Move to the pending file.
Move to the pending file. Next item on the agenda is PCO 1519, a resolution regarding health insurance for city employees. That's for first passage. That's not drafted. Committee report, ordinance.
Hold to December 2nd.
Held till December 2nd. Next item on the agenda is PCR 9417, bid number 2017-147, State of Rhode Island. Did I skip one, health insurance?
No.
No, we just did that. I'm sorry. PCR 9417, bid 2017-147, State of Rhode Island Telecommunications Services, installation and parts. Committee report, Finance.
Hold December 2nd.
Held to December 2nd. Next item on the agenda is PCR 14817, bid number 2018-143, installation of sprinklers at the Cooper Building Drill Hall. Committee report, Finance.
Hold December 2nd.
Hold till December 2nd. Next item on the agenda is PCR 1618, tree damage claims. That's not drafted. Committee report, Public Safety.
I believe,
That's hold till January 22nd?
correct, thank you.
Okay. Held till January 22nd. I believe that's Councilman Sinapi's committee.
Yes, thank
Thanks
you.
for filling in, Councilman Rex. PCR 13418, a resolution to create a charter review committee. That's not drafted. Committee report, intergovernmental.
That was held until January 22nd.
6th.
6th.
January 6th.
Held to January 6th. PCR 14919, a resolution relative to claims. Committee report, Public Safety.
This was held to December 2nd.
Held to December 2nd. Next item on the agenda is PCR 15119, now 2021-23, electrical maintenance and repairs. Committee report, Finance.
Withdrawn by the sponsor.
Recommendation is to withdraw. Councilman Lattiser, if you could move to withdraw.
Make a recommendation at the request of the sponsor to withdraw PCR 151-19.
Seconded by Councilman McAllister, Councilwoman Travis, Councilman Howe. Any discussion on this motion to withdraw PCR 15119, now 2021-23, electrical maintenance and repairs? If not, a yes is to withdraw, and the clerk will call the roll. Yes.
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 PCR 15119, 2021-23 is withdrawn. Next item on the agenda is PCR 16519, now 22170, Scott Air Pack X3 Pro self-contained breathing apparatus and related equipment. Committee report, Finance.
Favorable action.
For action, Councilman Lattiser.
Committee recommends favorable action on PCR 165-19 with an amendment.
Seconded by Councilman Howe and Councilman McAllister. Go ahead, Councilman, if you could
The
move
amendment is to award the contract for 6 months, and the amount was changed to $25,000.
And that period would end on April 22nd, 2020. Okay. That's the amendment. Councilman Lattiser moves as the amendment. Do I have a second on the amendment? Councilman McAllister, Councilman Howe. Any discussion on the amendment that we didn't have in the Finance Committee, or people didn't have an opportunity to ask? If not, a yes is for favorable action on the amendment, changing the award amount to $25,000 for a period of 6 months, ending on April 22nd, 2020. A yes is to approve that amendment, and the clerk will call the roll. Yes.
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 The amendment stands passed. If you could move it as amended. Councilman Lattiser.
I move favorable as amended on PCR 165-19.
Councilman Lattiser moves favorable as amended, seconded by Councilman McAllister, Councilman Howe. Any further discussion on this PCR 165-19, now 2020-170, as amended? If not, a yes is to approve, and the clerk will call the roll. Yes.
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 PCR 165-19, 220-170 stands passed as amended. Next item on the agenda is PCR 166-19, now 220-171, testing and repair of self-contained breathing apparatus. Committee report, Finance.
Committee recommends favorable action with an amendment.
For action, Councilman Lattiser, if you could move.
Favorable action on PCR 166-19 with an amendment.
Seconded by Councilman McAllister, Councilman Howe. Councilman Lattiser, if you could move the amendment.
The amendment will also award the contract for 6 months. The amount will change to $7,500, and the contract ending date would be April 22nd.
The amendment's been moved and seconded by Councilman McAllister, Councilman Howe. Any discussion on the amendment that we didn't have in Finance Committee, or any members would like to ask questions now? Again, it's amending it to the amount of $7,500, and the period would end, I believe, on June 15th, 2020. Any discussion on that?
June 15th, I'm sorry.
2020.
And
Yep.
June 15th.
That's correct. There's no discussion on the amendment. A yes is to approve the amendment, and the clerk will call the roll. Yes.
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 Amendment stands passed. Councilman Lattiser, if you could move it as amended.
Move favorable as amended on PCR 166-19.
It's been moved and seconded by Councilman McAllister and Councilman Howe as amended. Any discussion on PCR 165-19, now to 2020-171? If not, a yes is to approve as amended, and the clerk will call the roll. Yes.
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 PCR 166-19, now 2020-171, stands passed as amended. We'll move to unanimous consent. Ward 1, anything for unanimous consent? No. Ward 2?
Pass.
Ward 3?
Pass.
Ward 4?
Pass.
Ward 5?
Pass.
Ward 6? Pass. Ward 7? Pass. Ward 9 passes. Councilwoman Travis.
If there be no further business with this honorable body, I move to a docket session.
Councilwoman Travis moves us to the docket session. All those in favor?
Aye.
All those opposed? The council stands in the docket session. Ward 1, anything to docket?
Yes, I have one. It's a resolution to the General Assembly and Rhode Island Department of Transportation to close Narragansett Parkway to commercial trucking.
Okay. Intergovernmental. Ward 2.
Pass.
Ward 3.
One item, Mr. President, docketed by myself, Councilman McElroy, Councilwoman Travis, Councilman McAllister, Councilman Sinapi, Councilman Corley. The tentative title, ratification of the collective bargaining agreement between the City of Warwick and the Warwick firefighters, and for the period of July 1, 2019 to June 30th, 2022.
Finance. Anything else?
That'll-
No? Ward 4.
Pass.
Ward 5.
Pass.
Ward 6.
Yes, I have one, co-sponsored by Councilman Lattiser. Resolutions in regard to creation of a Vietnam Memorial at the Warwick Veterans Junior High School.
Public properties. Ward 7.
I have one, an ordinance in regards to a one-way traffic on Alice Ave.
Public safety.
I have one for Councilman Sinapi.
Okay, go ahead, Councilwoman Travis.
Okay, let's see. This is an ordinance in regards to no parking between signs either side from the southeast corner of Cadora and Greenwich Avenue, shortly after pole 1. He has a traffic study.
Public properties, and I have one. It's bond approval for the 2020-2021 school department projects, release of funds, and that will go into finance. City Council stands adjourned. Have a good evening.